allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda is a moment of silence. Trustee Fields would like to say a few words.
This past Monday, September 11th, was the anniversary of a tragic time that lives in infamy as part of our daily lives. A sorrowful memory in our American history and a solemn reminder to all of us that freedom is not free. And for the 2,996 lives lost to date from September 11, 2001, may we all share together as a community this 1 minute moment of silence and remembrance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Mason?
Present.
Trustee Reinders?
Present.
Trustee McNaughton?
Present.
Trustee Consolino?
Present.
Trustee Fialco?
Present.
Trustee Stylen?
Present.
Mayor Metzger-Troiki?
Present. Next is community recognition. Trustee Consolino will be passing out the Community and Nature and Harmony Awards.
Welcome to the celebration of Homer Glen Lands Day, which is no, is it? Almost. I apologize, everyone. Give me 1 sec. Okay. It is a great pleasure that the Environment Committee presents these awards to recognize how, this is for the 2023, okay, for the 2023 Community and Nature and Harmony Award presentation. It is a great pleasure that the Environment Committee presents these awards to recognize how individuals can influence and care for the natural environment and to support businesses and organizations who showcase Homer Glen's special character and generate community spirit. We have 5 residential property owners and 5 non-residential properties that are receiving awards this year. To help move things along, we ask that you come forward as I read your name, proceed to the podium, and receive your certificate, and have your picture taken and return to your seat. For the residential properties, the inherent beauty of our community would not exist without the care of our property owners. The following awards give recognition to residential property owners who have set an example and inspired their neighbors and other residents within Homer Glen. Tonight, these award recipients will receive a framed certificate and a sign to be placed on their property, which is being recognized. When I call your name, please come forward while I read your award acknowledgement. Proceed to Mayor Metzger-Troiki to have your picture taken, receive your certificate and signs, and then please return to your seat. The Al-Sadi family.
Yeah.
Please step up. For establishing, maintaining, and sharing an abundance of fruit trees, flower beds, and vegetable gardens that also beautify the Lancaster subdivision entrance.
Thank you.
Margaret Zabo. For maintaining a luscious garden and continuously incorporating new species to ensure habitat diversity for pollinators and other animals. Sandy Vale. For designing a beautiful garden and outdoor living space by incorporating diverse species of flowers, trees, shrubs, and vegetables. Joyce Stanzewski. For incorporating a beautiful mix of plants into the outdoor living area, including milkweed to support the monarch butterflies. Dr. Isadora Liedenfrost, Dr. Brad McCabe, Anara McCabe, and Teresa Morehouse. For maintaining a mix of meaningful dedication plantings, incorporating beautiful art into the gardens, and for demonstrating environmental stewardship by creating a more sustainable household to reduce individual impact on the environment. For our non-residential properties, the following awards give recognition to our commercial, agricultural, and governmental business or organizations who have contributed to the beautification of Homer Glen. These award recipients will receive a decal to be placed on a door or window of the building on the site which is being recognized. When I call your name, please come forward while I read your award acknowledgement. Proceed to Mayor Nechke Troike to have your picture taken, receive your sign and certificate, and please return to your seat. The Phoenix Kitchen and Cocktails. For growing organic microgreens on site to incorporate extra nutrients into menu items, and for remodeling the outdoor dining area with a new paver patio and a beautiful mix of trees, shrubs, and flowers. Softway and Loop Master. Each little business will get a sticker and frame for planting above and beyond what is required for building foundation and front yard landscaping. Thank you.
We keep moving further and further back.
Why this around a lot of people?
Homer Township Public Library. For the expansion of community spaces at the library, including a new outdoor Veterans Memorial space. Landscaping Inc. for presenting beautiful seasonal landscaping displays along Little Cliff Road.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending this evening and showing your support for this important Homer Glen event. Mayor Netzky-Trichy and the village trustees, thank you for your support. And the Environment Committee, thank you for your assistance in coordinating the presentations.
And thank you, Trustee Consolino, for your presentation. All right, we also have a disc golf champion. Is Mike, now I might say this wrong, Bryce Slavin? Is he ready?
Yes.
All right, come on up.
All right, Mike.
Bryce Slavin, a Homer Glen resident living in Woodbine subdivision, became the Illinois State Disc Golf Champion in the MA 50 division in July. Mike started playing disc golf in June of 21 when his brother-in-law brought discs to a family vacation in Door County, Wisconsin. When he returned from vacation, Mike and his son Mark began playing nearly every day at Heritage Park, learning the skills needed to play the game. On occasion, his wife Lisa and daughter Nicole will also play while enjoying the time at the park. To prepare for the Illinois State Disc Golf Championships, Mike practiced evenings and weekends at Heritage Park, learning shots that would be needed at the canyons of Delwood Park and Highland Park where the championships were held. Disc golf became important to Mike because it allowed him to spend more time with his family, make new friends through local disc golf community, and participate in year-round outdoor activities. To ensure the other Homer Glen families have an opportunity to learn disc golf and enjoy Heritage Park, Mike brought the idea of a youth league to the J-Town Disc Golf Club, and a 10-wee league was started at Heritage Park on July 13th with Tim, this is a hard one, Kate Jeltson and Jason Poole, also a Homer Glen resident. Mike is the Tractor Product Development Chief Engineer at CNH Industrial, and Mike likes to use engineering methods to continuously improve. One of the primary improvements Mike would like to see at Heritage Park are improvements in the tee pads, preferably concrete, to provide reliable and consistent footing while also allowing for the ability to be shoveled in the winter. Congratulations, Mike. I've never played disc golf. You're gonna have to teach me. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congrats again. Okay, amendments to the agenda. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Trustee Fialko, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Consolino? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to approval of minutes, June 14th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I can't remember if I was the one that tabled them or second to table them. There's still a lot wrong with these minutes. Has anybody else looked at them or watched the video? So I'll just go off of mine for right now, but the reports are not in order. There's a lot of, I'm not sure how everyone wants to proceed with doing the minutes. I know the board kind of does it differently, but we have some things that are said verbatim by some people and not by others on the board. And especially in reference with TRIA, when they did their presentation. I have requested in writing that the time be noted when it started and when it ended. It did not get put on there. Each slide that was presented does not have Mr. Petrakis' comments and rebuttals or his claims about rumor mill. There's a lot of comments that are missing from Trustee Fialko on the first few pages. And, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's verbatim or not, but if you're going to say that one person verbatim and then you're not going to respond with somebody else's comments verbatim. Especially if there's an argument or if there's a question and there's major discussion, I don't think that's a real fair or unbiased representation of what occurred during that discussion. And I'll give a primary example where I get jaded on the very last, on page 10 and 20. I get attacked, and it's reported that I'm told to use my attitude by the mayor, but then my comments that I made before that comment was given are not there. So I don't believe that this is a true representation. I try to be polite, and I was hoping that it would get caught, but nobody else seemed to have caught any of it. So I'm respectfully requesting that these minutes be reevaluated again. And tabled.
Does anybody else have any more comments?
So is that a motion?
Trustee Steinman?
Did you give all those requirements that you wanted in the minutes to the clerk?
I gave the minutes, I asked, when we would start, because it was over an hour. So I requested that. And I also asked her to be very detailed with what was said, especially by myself and Trustee Fialko when we argued points on to why the presentation was brought before us during the mayor's trustee report. It's not reflected.
And did you do that just in the last 2 weeks?
No, this was in the beginning.
It was my understanding that she had not received anything in writing from you.
No, in the beginning she did.
Trustee Mason, do you have any comments?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialko, do you have any comments?
No, but I think she's made a motion, though.
She didn't make a motion, she requested.
I thought she did at the end.
I didn't hear her, that she respectfully requested. Wait, but if you want to make a motion, if you want
We
to...
should motion the table until later.
I will second that. I don't see any harm in it.
Okay, motion table by Consolino, second by Trustee Fialko. Is there any discussion on the tabling?
Can I make a suggestion, Madam Mayor? Yeah, but maybe it'd be best, Trustee, if you just email your changes over to the clerk and she can add them or whatever, and then that way we can.
Okay, but I think, what was it, 4 out of 5 trustees that were present tabled that? So I'm not the only one who objected.
Yeah, so if anybody has any changes, obviously you went back and you want your points added, I think you just email them over, because I don't want to speak for the clerk, but I didn't talk to her, I think she's a little overwhelmed sometimes.
And I understand that,
Yeah.
and that's why I didn't want to say it's on the clerk.
Thank you.
Trustee Fialko, do you have any comments on the table? Trustee Reiner? No. Trustee Naughton?
No.
Trustee Mason? Sorry.
Ma'am.
Trustee Zion?
No, just to say that when it was tabled before, I agreed to the tabling to support Trustee Consolino in making those changes. I just would like to say that if, that they should be approved by the next meeting.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. This meeting we happened on June 14th. When were the minutes presented and were tabled? Do you remember?
I believe it was at the very next meeting.
Very next meeting.
Yeah.
It is now September 13th. And we're still waiting to approve minutes from June 14th. After speaking to the clerk, she had stated that she had not received any feedback from those who had tabled the minutes. And I do agree that those 4 out of 5 that tabled the minutes respectfully did that for you, Trustee Henry. So
That was not stated.
right, that was a discussion I had with each trustees because the clerk didn't understand why they were tabled. I also believe that at this point, if we're going to go back and forth, and we want to have a lot of discussion in the minutes, I think the clerk, this is just my suggestion, should keep them brief as possible. We have every meeting on recording. She could put a timeline, minute mark so-and-so for full details, keep them brief. This way there's no, my sentence didn't get put in, but this one did, I was attacked, I wasn't. I just think it should just be brief.
Well, then maybe we should be voting on how we want to proceed with the minutes.
We could, right now, we're going to do a motion for table. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee McNaughton?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
For tabling?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Reinders? I'll abstain, I wasn't here for that meeting. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, I see no harm in doing that.
Motion fails. Continuing on to the original motion to approve minutes for June 14th. We have a motion still on the table. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Bianco?
Pass.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Pass.
Trustee McNaughton?
Pass.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Reinders? Pass.
So it comes back to trustee Fialko.
Can you restate the question?
We are in the middle of a motion to approve.
I just wanted to restate.
That's okay. We are in the middle of a motion to approve minutes for June 14th, 2023.
We missed the discussion part of that.
No, we had the
Go back to
discussion.
it. We discussed the motion to amend or to table. We didn't have a discussion on the actual minutes themselves. And do you mind if I just say one thing?
Sure.
What I'd like to see us do, and maybe it could add some clarity for the whole board, is when something does get tabled because there's a discrepancy in the minutes, for the historical content, when the changes are given or made through the clerk, if the clerk could notify the person that tabled it and had the question that it's ready to be reviewed, that might help the process instead of waiting, till the agenda comes out and then it's got to be looked over. Maybe if there was that communication between the two in the process, that may help this process, so we don't end up like this. And so that for that reason, I want to say no, because I think the historical content of the meeting should reflect it in the minutes, and by us not tabling this just previously doesn't actually do that. And this is a historical document, no matter what the meeting was about. So that I just feel bad that it got turned down to table it to correct the historical document. So therefore, I have to say no.
Madam Clerk, do you have any comments to add to that?
I do just have one comment. I just want to say that because I was included on the emails. The clerk did send 2 to 3 emails requesting feedback on what could be wrong with the minutes.
Understood, but I'm saying Jennifer tabled it. I don't think I wasn't the one that, I agreed to table it with everybody else. But the thing is, I'm talking the communication between the clerk and Jennifer who tabled it, right? Where she gets to then say, okay, the clerk says 2 weeks ago, I corrected it, take a look at it. Now, I know that she sent out the emails, and those emails probably went back and forth, but I wasn't making the changes. I'm saying the person that made the change should be notified by the clerk to then review it before this meeting, before a packet's put together, and then we can move forward with it.
I'd like to make one more comment too, since we're in second discussion on this.
We are actually in the middle of roll call. Where are we at right now with roll call?
Trustee Fialko said no.
And we have,
Thank you for letting me say it.
Trustee Mason?
And this was, again, because I got lost in the shuffle here, for passing it?
Yes.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino, even though you had already voted, I believe, you have one comment to add.
Yes, the comment I had to add is that I have to review these minutes by watching the video again, a very lengthy video. And I don't feel that it's my responsibility as the trustee to have to do that to ensure their accuracy. You guys are also minusing the fact here that, or missing the fact, that the reports are completely out of order. So again, historical accuracy doesn't seem to matter.
Madam Clerk, where are we at? Roll call, I'm lost now too. Trustee Mason vote?
Yes.
Trustee Stylen vote?
Yes, she voted yes. So Trustee McNaughton
Aye.
and Trustee Reinders? Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to approval of July 12th, 2023 minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee McNaughton, Trustee Mason, do you have any comments?
I do not, but
Trustee
thank you.
McNaughton?
No, thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
No comment.
Trustee Reinders?
No comment.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
No.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to public comment. see there's a lot of people in the audience tonight. I just want a quick reminder, if you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes. First up, Mikey Smith.
Hi, Board, Mayor.
Is your mic on?
I don't know, am I on?
Yep, thank you.
Hi, Board and Mayor. Talking about the Parker Hadley Road Chicago Bloomington Trail project again. Wanted to first say thank you for your time and collaboration working with us and your willingness to be on our side and try and protect this roadway expansion project. So that's the first thing I want to do is say thank you, and looking forward to seeing the resolution as the first step of several that I've discussed with a handful of you guys verbally, and as I understand it, the next steps will be to get a workshop, we get resident feedback, all together have a meeting to talk about it, and then pass hopefully some additional further legislation with more team. So my comment is primarily to say I'm looking forward to that and we'll continue pressing for it, and to say thank you for what you've done so far.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Gardner?
Good evening. I was coming here tonight to talk about the Parker Hadley road improvements. I see in the agenda that there's going to be a resolution action item number 4. So hold most of my comments until after that resolution, because I do understand now that there will be a workshop hopefully following up after that. And that's really what I wanted to talk about, make sure, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for the workshop. I'd like to be part of it because my property is directly affected by it. So thank you for the work so far, and got a battle in front of us. It's going to take a while, so hopefully we can all do it together. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Pinelli, Andy Pinelli.
Thank you, Andy Pinelli, President of DeBoer Woods Homeowners Association, representing the Homeowners Association and also affected neighbors, and our subdivision southern entrance is potentially at risk if the road is widened the way that it's marked, and our HOA members' properties to the east and west of the entranceway is also at risk. So the optimal solution and outcome for DeBoer Woods is that the road and shoulder be precisely the same dimensions that it is now, and that we leave the ditches alone and that we leave the trees alone. So thank you, Board, for your consideration of the approval resolution tonight. Thank you, Mayor and Sue, for having talked to a group of concerned citizens recently, and also we're looking forward to a village workshop with the mayor, select board members, affected neighbors, and other knowledgeable individuals that can help us discuss the strategy to come up with the most optimal outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pinelli. Larry Haslett. Joe, you're also listed on there. Did you want to join him, or did you want to speak separately?
I guess not. Anyway, thank you, Mayor. After listening to 2 of the other speakers, I think that maybe I'm a little late in the game, but one of the things that I do want to say is that I want to understand this resolution. I really haven't been aware of it and your item 4. And so I guess I'll be a part of what's going to go on in the future. And I will just say at this time that since I am a resident, have been one for 45 years along this whole 167th Bloomington Trail in Hadley, that I'm very concerned for the safety of the people that live along it, and actually the people that drive on it, because sometimes I don't think they even realize what they're doing when they're driving. And I'm hoping that this resolution is going to include that, and if there's an open forum or anything where, well, the people affected are going to be able to attend, then that's fine for me for now. Okay?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you. Joe, you were also listed on there. Did you want to say anything?
Not at this time, I'd reconsider.
Mark, Danielle?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I was here before you a couple of weeks ago. I represent NSS Group in relation to Lot 4 Menard subdivision, part of Lot 5 now. Item L1 on the agenda is asking for an extension of the current zoning entitlement. In general, with regard to that item, I'm available for questions. The reasons for the request for the extension relate to a closing that occurred in January or February, a cash purchase, interest rates that have skyrocketed, construction expense, and an inability to tenant the shopping center. With respect to that particular extension, there is an alternative project that is pending for Lot 5 and extends onto Lot 4. That goes to hearing the 21st of this month. That somewhat tails into the next three items that I'm asking you to consider, 7, 8, and 9 on the agenda, these moratorium. Last time I appeared here with Mr. Scally, he was looking forward to reintroductions to some of you who were here last time this project was approved, introductions to the new elected officials. He's not here tonight. It was difficult to contain some of the frustration from that last meeting when the moratorium on the issue of liquor licenses expanded to 60% of convenience store sales that are projected at this site. Substantial dollar figure. We did not see in the video that tobacco was going to be considered. We did not analyze that at all or present that issue to you. The same thing is true of gaming. The state of Illinois has a statewide program, north to south, east to west, that encourages people to redevelop, maintain sites, re-improve, come up with some ingenuity, and have a fallback. And that Gaming Act is specifically intended to be business friendly, small business friendly, something that helps keep communities moving when they decide the game is appropriate. And suspending that for individuals in Homer Glen is a setback. The cigarette sales, the C-store gas station sales, there's a noted gap in Homer Glen. You're on the line of Cook County. You know, Villa Park in a similar situation has the busiest tobacco sales business on St. Charles Road just outside of Elmhurst because it is closest to Cook County. And you're literally walking away from revenue on
You're
a
30 seconds.
on a matter that's pretty common throughout Homer Glen and its surrounding areas and does not cause a detriment. So I've asked that you not adopt a moratorium. I am available for questions on L1. I will not comment unless asked about the moratoriums. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Heidi?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak for a minute. I'm here for the Hadley Parker project, as a lot of people are, and it's my intention, as it is others' intentions, to inform and garner awareness for this road project. So I'm just proposing that the community ask questions, inquire facts, not just opinions, and push for transparency and ask which professional can back up the data and so on. It's my conclusion that the community should be involved and also be informed in what this resolution will be. Just to clarify, I don't know what anyone's side is on that. We're all going to find out, I guess. So I'll hold off on most of my comments that I have written down. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Dominic?
Hello, I'm Dominic Pasella. I'm Parker, Hanley, Bloomington, here to support our neighbors that are all here concerned about the road project. And so we're concerned about widening the road because a lot of our homes are within maybe 25 feet or less front door to Hadley Road. So we're concerned about not widening the road because then, you know, we could just give high five to the cars that drive past our homes. Plus, big concern was about the cost of the road. And we believe that if we just put truck signs, weight limits, and slow the traffic down, and just resurface our roads, that will keep the cost down on maintaining the road. And also, I just want to say hi to everyone.
Thank you, Dominic.
No problem.
Hasib Al-Sadi? I think he was a community nature and harmony. Okay. Chuck Phillips?
Hi, I'm Chuck Phillips. I've lived in what's now Homer Glen for over 38 years. A long, long time ago, the Indians had a very important trail that passed through what's now Homer Glen. When the white men got here, they named it the Chicago-Bloomington Trail because it went from Chicago to Bloomington. And it eventually became wide, became the road. The Chicago-Bloomington Trail is now called Hadley Road or Chicago-Bloomington Road or Chicago-Bloomington Trail. It is the same historical route followed by the red men a long, long time ago. Now the county has decided that this is not historical, but this is some kind of a major business route. I don't get it. Hadley Road, Chicago-Bloomington Road, and the south part of Parker Road have no commercial establishments at all. And to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing that's zoned commercial along that route. Yet the county would make the road into something approaching what 159th Street is today. Makes no sense. They would, in effect, take traffic from Cook County at 167th and Wolf Road, take it through Hadley, Chicago, Bloomington, and Parker, and it would end up in New Lenox Township at Route 6 in Parker. Well, Wolf Road is Route 6. In effect, they want to create a bypass for Route 6. Route 6 is a U.S. highway that runs over 3,000 miles from Massachusetts to California. That's where the traffic is supposed to be, on U.S. highways. It's not supposed to be on a residential country road with over 100 driveways. I urge this village to do something to prevent the county from making that into a giant bypass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Edna Piccolini? Piccolini, did I say that right?
Close.
Close.
Pitchling.
Yeah.
It's my husband's fault. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. I just wanted to also speak on the Parker-Hadley Road project and the proposed resolution that you have in front of you today. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your support that you guys have given us and the homeowners and village members who are opposed to the Will County's plan as proposed for this project. And it's been referenced and brought to your attention, many of the residents here have concerns about the project, about the unnecessary spending, as well as the planned improvements that everybody's talked about, which will affect our properties, trees, the rural characteristics, and overall environmental and agricultural qualities of this corridor. I just wanted to mention the fact that the current Will County plan, just their preliminary studies have a price tag of $1.9 million. This is for the environmental studies, the arborist reports, the geotechnical reports, which we have asked for copies of and haven't been provided. The plan has caused a great deal of stress and anxiety, I think, for all of us that live along the corridor and who moved here specifically for the Community Nature and Harmony, which incidentally you gave awards out tonight for, and we don't want the road project as proposed. So we understand that the resolution that you guys are proposing tonight is the first step, which we are again thankful of, and it's a great beginning. But we'd like to have some type of roadmap or outline as far as what the plan is going to be, and we look forward to working with you and the opportunity to discuss the exact measures and plans that you guys have and what we can provide as far as the jurisdictional transfer is concerned, from getting the road from Will County to the village, what that will entail as far as maintaining the 4 miles of road, snow plowing, and what ultimately the road's gonna need some type of work, what you guys have earmarked and planned for that, where that money's coming from, because if we're going back to the federal funding situation, we're right back where we started with the Will County plan, so hopefully we can come up with some interesting or, plans to, if the road needs to be repaved or redone, we can do that in the least effective way, affecting the property owners and trees and property. So, thank you.
Excuse me, and I just had a question. You said you asked the county for which reports, environmental studies and what else?
Yeah, so we FOIA'd the FOIA officer at Will County DOT, and I specifically asked for just the arborist report because we know the arborist was out. We know our trees are all tagged. All of my trees that are within 30 feet of the roadway have tags on them. They said they don't have the report. We have the proposal that says that was part of the $1.9 million. We also know there was a geotechnical report done because the drill rig was parked on my property for 2 days. The soil borings were marked on the street, but they said they don't have that. The only thing that they've provided us is the proposal, which shows the $1.9 million price tag of that. And this is just the studies. This is not even any work. This is just consultants that go out there to figure stuff out. And I think we also got a copy of the minutes, or not the minutes, the comments that people had provided to them. So that's all we got so far. So I don't know where the reports are.
Thank you.
Sorry, thanks.
Melissa and Joe, when you were talking to the county next, and we're getting the information that we're going to plan to have for the next meeting, would you be able to ask them for those reports that you just stated?
We will.
Thank you. Mr. Walters?
I'm going to pass.
Okay. I think that was it for public comment. We're now moving on to reports and communications from the president and other officers. Mr. Baber, do you have anything?
I do. We have a couple events going to be happening here in the village. On September 21st, we have the market in the Glen here at Heritage Park. There'll also be a touch a truck event from 3 to 7 p.m. On September 22nd, we have stargazing here at the park in the community room. There'll be live owls in the community room, and then you can step outside and see some of the stars and the planets. Also, I want to remind everybody that Bankston's opens on Friday and Kono's opens on Saturday, so there will be additional traffic and pedestrians in the area, so let's all drive with increased caution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baber. Moving on to trustees, Trustee Consolino.
Reporting for the Environment Committee, I am very happy to report that September is a month that the Environment Committee actually gets to shine. We will be having our fall stargazing event next Friday, September 22nd, so please come join us and experience stargazing at Heritage Park while celebrating our village's unique international dark sky recognition. Viewing will begin as soon as it gets dark. I'm also very proud to say that our stargazing event continues to attract more and more residents with each event, and that our village staff will become an integral part of taking this event on and facilitating it. Without staff support, our events would not be successful and would rely solely on our committee members and recruiting volunteers. So I would like to be extending a big thank you to Melissa King, Taylor Darby, Jacqueline Huff, Jennifer Vittori, Ron Cuss, and our Emergency Management Agency, and the rest of the amazing Environment Committee members, Joe Therese, Andy Pinelli, Chris Chiappetta, and Fran Prevala. I'd also like to acknowledge the Kankakee Area Stargazers, the Naperville Astronomical Association, and the Southwest Astronomy Observers Group. Amateur astronomers from these groups will be sharing their large telescopes, very large, some of them, with our residents for free. They do this out of their love for astronomy. Viewing begins at dark, and we will also have an owl meet and greet with the Northern Illinois Raptor Rehab and Education Group inside the community room. On Saturday, September 30th, we have another event. The Environment Committee is also hosting our annual cleanup and a hike on Heroes Trail. It's in honor of Homer Glen's land day, and the Environment Committee is supporting our annual cleanup. Food, water, and supplies will be provided. Students can receive community service hours. So please contact District 205 or Lockport Township High School Administration for the required paperwork. It's going to be at Culver Park at 14600 South Parker Road on Saturday, September 30th, 2023, from 10 a.m. until noon. So if you have any other questions, please contact Melissa King at mking@homerglenhill.org. That's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Considine. Trustee McNaughton?
No, thank you.
Trustee Reinders?
Good evening, everyone. Reporting for the Parks Committee. On September 1st, we held a special meeting to discuss the master plan of Heritage Park and how we were going to move forward with that. We discussed the parking, we discussed the amphitheater, we discussed the Veterans Memorial, the intent for more soccer fields in Heritage Park, and we also talked about pavilions that would provide bathrooms and a water feature for Heritage Park. There has been a lot of discussion over the last few months about trying to coincide with the master plan that was developed some years back. So basically what we did is we actually just kept the plan and we moved things around a little bit. We had to realign some stuff with the water and sewer lines in order to make this plan move forward. I plan on bringing to the board a workshop for everybody to be able to see the changes that we made in the future, hopefully at our next meeting. So, and that's it. So, that's it for the part.
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Mason?
Yes, I would like to report on my Public Safety and Service Committee that we met on September 6th at our scheduled time. There's been plenty of reports of cars or people speeding through Old Oak and Golden Oak area near 143rd or Golden Oak. Lieutenant Taylor's been doing a great job with his team to address the issue. We've had extensive conversations on that, and I can't thank them enough. There's also been numerous residents complaining about Hickory Avenue and Cedar with speeding. There's a problem there, and we're looking at the possibility of a speed reduction. We're working through Village Manager Mr. Baber. It's currently posted at 30 miles an hour, but we may need to have that adjusted, and we're looking at that. So that addresses the public safety. I also had behavioral health and addiction recovery. We met at our regular standard time on the 6th as well. During that meeting, we had the opportunity to hear from Director of Pathway, which is Jim O'Connor. This is an addiction recovery program located in Payless Park on 127th and Southwest Highway. You guys may recognize it as the farm and the bridge that goes over there, but there's a lot that they do there. They not only help disabled, but their program houses up to 15 people for addiction recovery. They have 12 persons currently, I believe that was, Joe, that are going through the program, but they have up to 15 beds on site. And if we know somebody that needs some help, they do have to go through a addiction recovery program, like a 30-day detox kind of thing, and they accept them in, and they have plenty of resources. The same facility is doing a Dash for Den, which this gentleman lost his child. This Dash for Den is a 5K run walk to support the Pathway program to sobriety. It will be on October 15th at 8:30 a.m. There is not a fee for it. And by the way, there's not a fee to stay at this during the reduction or the addiction recovery, the rehab portion of it. The only thing else that compares to that is in Arizona, and for a 6-month stay, it's $70,000 per person. So there is nothing. So if you want to run for Dash for Den, the 5K walk and run to support the Pathway program to sobriety, it's October 15th at 8:30 a.m. There's not a fee for that program, and it supports the families and those in need of addiction recovery. Last year, they raised over $20,000. They're self-sufficient. To join the walk, you can call Marlene at 708-259-1445 or Mark at 708-717-3368. Again, this is in memory of Dennis, who passed on 2/6/18. Also, while we're on this topic, it is National Suicide Prevention Month. Every year, mental health organizations and individuals across the U.S. and around the world raise awareness of suicide prevention during the month of September. We should all unite and promote suicide prevention awareness. We should all be working to change the conversation from suicide to suicide prevention and promote the healing in order to possibly help and give hope. We can all help prevent suicide. Research shows that people who are having thoughts of suicide feel relief when somebody asks them in a caring way about the topic. The national hotline and availability nationwide is by dialing 988, and you can call or text that crisis hotline. It is a confidential and free number. It is open 24/7. And for those who are not in a crisis but are seeking treatment options for mental health conditions, they can visit by Googling 988 Lifeline. Homer Glen is committed to preventing overdose deaths and helping people throughout their journeys. We can raise awareness, including the opioid recovery, which is currently happening in September, by wearing purple, thus the purple. Chicago is lighting up the skyline this September, and they've done it all week long, and they're doing it through the 14th by wearing purple to honor those that are in recovery. On a lighter note, this day in history, September 13th. On September 13th, 1814, during the War of 1812, Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, America's future national anthem. Key authored this famous song while he was detained on a British warship. He was detained overnight after trying to secure the release of one of his friends. Key and his newly freed friend were not allowed to leave the British ship anchored in the Baltimore Harbor. This was until the British finished their bombardment of Fort McHenry. Fort McHenry was the most important position in the Baltimore Harbor as it guarded the entrance, and the British Army was poised to take it. No ship could go in or out without being in the range of Fort McHenry's many cannons. The fort would have been taken. The fort would have to be taken. The British intended to do this by unleashing a torrent of rockets and cannonballs at the fort until the increasingly disheartened men inside decided to surrender. The bombardment unleashed by the British was one for the ages. All through the night, cannonballs and rockets lit up the sky and the night and crashed into the fort. Francis Scott Key watched in anticipation as his countrymen endured the terrible onslaught that hoped dearly that when the sun came up the next morning that the fort would still be standing. As the sun crept over the horizon and the smoke of the night's bombardment began to dissipate, the red, white, and blue of the American stars and stripes became visible. Fort was still standing, the flag was still there. Key was so moved by the sight of his country's tattered flag atop of the ramparts of Fort McHenry that he immediately set out to start writing down a few verses from a poem which he entitled, The Defense of Fort McHenry. This poem would later be renamed the Star-Spangled Banner and would grow in immense popularity to become the nation's national anthem in 1931. A little bit for this day in history. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Trustee Fiocco?
No, this is unusual for me, but no report.
Trustee Stylen?
Thank you. Reporting for the Community Development Committee meeting, committee. We haven't had our meeting yet. It is tomorrow. We are still accepting new members if you're interested in serving the community and trying to promote community pride. We would welcome you at our meetings. And part of that is planning events. And I just want to give a shout out to our staff as well for the nice Chalk It Up event that we had this past Saturday. And I also want to give a plug for the library because they have their Shark Banks on display and tomorrow is the last day you can go vote for them. And that's another nice little thing that's happening in our community. And also there's a senior expo by the Township this Saturday. It's from 10 to 2 over at the junior high.
Definitely.
Yeah. I have the time, it's 10 to 2, but anyway, I know that the Township is doing a really good job on that event, and if you're a senior, it's great to go, and if you are somebody who's taking care of a senior, it's also great to go and see what resources are available. Thank you.
Styling. Madam Clerk, Village Attorney,
No report.
Public Safety Officials,
The last part of the Safety Act takes effect on Monday, the 18th. With all the trailer bills that came out, it's not as bad as we originally thought. Most of the burden will be on the Sheriff's Department and the courts and the jail and the state's attorney to just minor procedural stuff. It really won't affect the general public that much, but we are prepared with all the forms and everything we need to get going on Monday, so there's nothing for the public to worry about. So,
thank you.
any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Next is me. We've got a few things to talk about tonight. Hadley Road, yes, I'm glad you guys are all here. I do want to thank Trustee Reinders and Trustee Stylen for also attending the resident meetings that you guys had hosted, and thank you to the residents who are putting those meetings together. Again, I've said this many times, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but we do want to help, and we do want to keep that road the way it is without causing any taxpayer money, and we're doing everything we can. I know the question of a workshop has come up a few times. We are in the process of planning a workshop. The reason why we have not had one yet is because, like you, we're not getting all the answers that we are looking for as well. So we want to make sure that we have as much information as we can get before we have a meeting. So when you ask a question, we'll have answers. So that is the reason why we haven't had a workshop yet. We're hoping to have a workshop by the next meeting. Joe, Mr. Baker, would you please make sure that that is on the next agenda? A couple other things. I'm disappointed I don't see Mr. Ballage here tonight or Mr. Porfilio. There were some statements made at the Township meeting that I just really wanted to take a moment to clear up. A few things that were said at the Township meeting. One thing that Mr. Ballage said was true was that I did have a meeting with him a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. I didn't meet with him alone. I never meet with him alone. I met with him and Trustee Reinders. And Trustee Reinders, if I misspeak at all, I'd like you to interrupt me. Okay? During that meeting, Mr. Ballage presented me with 2 sheets of paper. This one and this one. This one. He came to me and asked me to do a land swap. When I had asked him of the information of how many acres, where's it at, what's the benefits, what's the pros, what's the cons, what's it going to cost, he had no information for me. In fact, he told me, I'm in the process. I spent tens of thousands of dollars already trying to figure this out. We've been talking about it, and at the meeting he stated he's been in discussion for over a year about this. That was the first time I heard about this land swap. Trustee Reinders was there. She also hadn't heard about it. He stated he talked to Melissa King and Joe Baber for over a year. They haven't heard anything about it until just recently. So when Mr. Ballage stated that I said this is a done deal, and I'm trying to pull a strong mayor, and I'm speaking for the board, and this isn't going to happen, that never happened. That is not true at all. Trustee Reinders, is that correct? The other thing that he stated was that I said I'm going to take over the township and force the unincorporated areas to come into Homer Glen. Did not say that either. One thing that I did say is that, Mr. Ballage, I thought it was your goal to get rid of the township. He said, I have 1 term left in me. I said, okay. I personally, I'm one person of 7. I don't even vote, and I believe I said this, I don't even get a chance to vote unless there's a tie. But myself personally would like to pursue to get the residents of Homer Glen out of the township. I personally feel it's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. I've asked several times, what services do they provide to the residents of Homer Glen that we already don't provide? That is just my personal thought. I'm not speaking for them, I'm not speaking for them, and I'm not speaking for staff. The other thing I brought up, as Mr. Ballage stated, we have 21 miles of road in the township. I said, Mr. Ballage, you're incorrect, you have 18 miles. Here's a document from IDOT as of August 16, 2023, saying we have 18 miles of road. One thing Mr. Ballage said was, our staff makes double what they make. What he failed to mention is that their elected officials make double that we make. Just To give you some numbers, I want you guys to chew on this a little bit. Mr. Portfolio makes $61,094, and he maintains 18 miles of road. Brent Woods, our supervisor, our Public Works, makes $102,000, and he maintains 130 miles of road. We run our roads on a 1.5 tax. They run their 18 miles on 1.2 million. If you do the math, township roads are $66,000 per mile. Ours are $23,000 per mile. So you understand where I'm going with this. I'd like to start saving some taxpayer dollars. Township has an authority spending appropriation of $3.8 million. We have $3 million. The math isn't adding up to me. This is why I'd like to investigate this. The township has 2 employees, we have 15. In their own ordinance, it says, and it's ordinance 2020-1109 RES1. In the event Homer Township Road District is abolished, the commissioner's salary and benefits will be terminated. Mr. Baelish says it's impossible to abolish the highway commission or the highway department. Why does their own ordinance say if it is to be abolished? Kind of contradicts itself. Continue on, it says if the township road district's total responsibility for roads is less than 20 miles, the commissioner's salary should be reduced to $15,000 annually without insurance or pension benefits. I just proved to you it's 18 miles from IDOT. IDOT determines how many miles of road they have. My question to Mr. Portfolio is, you're a taxpayer watchdog, why are you still collecting a $61,000 salary? If anybody has any questions on anything that Mr. Baelish states I say, please contact me directly, and I'd be happy to tell you the truth. You heard me say, Trustee Reinders, please correct me if I'm wrong in anything I said, and she was there the entire time. That's all I have for my report. Moving on to consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for period of August 25th, 23 through September 14th, 23 in the amount of $375,091.80. I'm sorry, 86 cents.
I'll make them. I'll second.
Trustee Fialko, Trustee Mason, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee McNaught?
Aye.
Yeah, I just want to take two of them.
Sure.
Joe was asked today, we're missing your bill in this packet. It's the first packet of the month, we usually get your bill. So I don't know, I'm just.
There was a
That'll
reason.
be for the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a.
It wasn't in, so, in case you don't get.
Thank you.
We did ask why.
There was a reason.
We did ask why it wasn't in.
Yeah.
God love you.
Moving on to legislation and action items. Item 1, consider for approval ordinance number 23-052, an ordinance requesting an extension of ordinance 22-038 that granted 1, a preliminary plat of subdivision, 2, a special use permit for a major amendment to the Menards Plan Unit Development PUD with certain exceptions. 3, special use permits for A, car wash, an automobile repair, service and body shop use, and B, a drive-through establishment. 4, a site plan, and 5, a variance from the exterior construction standards for certain real property generally located in the C2 local business districts on lot 4 and 5 Menards PUD subdivision, Homer, Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion?
So,
Trustee Stylen, second by Trustee Reinders. Trustee Stylen?
yeah.
Trustee Reinders?
Basically, this is just, we're extending, this was the original that they brought before us, and we're extending it now again.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee McNaught?
No.
Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialko?
Yes. Back in 2020, hold on 1 second, we were back in September 14, 2022. There was a change made to this, and it's been over a year. I know you've come up to the podium a few times. You represent, sir, I'm sorry, I don't know, but you represent that Menards lot over there, correct?
I do.
And I know you guys have been chewing on this one for a while. We originally approved it. We had the extension that we gave you and the changes that you asked for after that.
This is the first extension.
Sorry, here's a quote.
Okay, not the extension, but you did come back to us with the change from the original plan.
The original plan was in 2002 or 2005, and the annexation agreement expired. We came in and modified the plan to allow the use that was ultimately approved.
Yes,
September.
so we're on the same page. So my next question, you're asking for an extension, but every time, for the past 2 meetings, you came up in the last meeting, you made it sound like it was, it was do or die, whether you got the liquor, whether the liquor license was put on hold for a while, and the gaming was detrimental to your survival moving forward. But my question to you is, when do you plan on putting the shovel in the ground if it's been a year and a half and you've had all these changes? Because I just want to add to, and this is why I wanted to say this, just so you know, with the liquor license, the plan is for the moratorium to be for 6 months, but we don't plan on taking that long to do it. That's a cushion. And I've talked with Joe about this. My goal would be to get it done by the 2 meetings from now at the longest. So it wouldn't have an impact on your business. It's just the rest you put you at ease in that regard. And the same thing with the gaming. We're not planning on using the total 6 months. We're trying to use that cushion of time to get 3 things done. And my guess is, and I've talked with Joe, that we would address the liquor license first. I'm guessing it wouldn't even take but 2 meetings to get that corrected. So just, again, to put your mind at ease for that one. But my question would be, when are you planning to get started?
We plan to get started as soon as we have a project that we can tender. The issue that we have on this project is that the financing package has to be supportable. And the project that you're extending, because of rates, the cost of construction, and the interest, the lack of interest in tenants that we were directed towards, delays the project to the point where we have to close with Menards. Imagine being under a contract with a project entitlement and having to pay cash for that land. That occurred in January and February. And we look at it, we deal with our banks on a regular basis. And I don't want to debate the moratorium. The moratorium issue's out there, but I explained last time I was here that the fact that the moratorium may not affect us when we go to permitting doesn't solve the issue that since the last meeting, we've had to have 2 meetings with our bank about what we're planning to do here, because when the bank looks at it, they see moratorium. They're not going to see, we've been told it's not applicable to us or it may not be applicable to us. They see the moratorium. And that affects us on multiple levels now. It's not just the alcohol, but it's the tobacco.
But do you see what I'm saying? It's been almost, you're going close to 2 years, but we're talking about a 1 month time period that's going to take us to correct something. And you're making it sound like it's detrimental to your survival. But I'm thinking that almost 2 years to get started. And I'm not against extending this for you. I just kind of wanted an explanation as to why we didn't have a shovel in the ground yet, but yet we're kind of criticizing a 2 meeting wait on a liquor license that's not going to affect you at all.
All right, well, I'm not going to debate the effect. I have to deal with that effect daily. And you're dealing with the back end, I'm dealing with the front end.
So let's
just, I mean, I don't want to debate that with you, all right? I mean, I told you our position on the front end, and you have your position on the back end. As far as, you're saying it's a 2-year delay, okay? And we're not at 2 years. This is the first year. So September of last year, we were here. We have this meeting, and we look at it and we say, well, let's see where this next project goes, which we think is a better benefit for Homer Glen. But we should extend this, even though we have this other proposal that fully develops the area that's developable for lot 4 and 5. So we are asking for the extension. I did explain where things went after the approval. And the issue with rates that we had caused us to restructure the purchase transaction. There was a brief delay from closing. I think it was on account of Menards until January, and I think there was a brief 2-week delay for us at the end of that, where we worked out the cash sale. So there was some liquidation of assets to work out the cash sale, and that got us to 6 months, 8 months ago. 8 months ago. And we've been working since the approval, and since prior to the approval, pursuing some folks that Janie mentioned and pursuing your typical tenants. But we found that the owner-invested businesses have a better likelihood of supporting financing because there's less risk.
Okay, Melissa, you recommend extending this, correct? We've done this many times before, and there's nothing that's changed from the last one to this one as far as the extension. And the first date that we started on this was approximately when it was first approved before the first change.
This project was approved on September 14th, 2022.
And before that, we got started when?
Do you know when you applied?
January or February was the preliminary pre-application?
Of 2022, so.
And I know there's a lot of complications right now with doing any business out there. There's all kinds of hoops and stuff you have to do. So that's all. Thank you.
No changes, and yes, I recommend.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Castellino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 2, consider for approval ordinance number 23-053, a request for a preliminary and final plat of subdivision estates subdivision, a certain real property located in the R3A Single Family Residential District at 12513 West Hadley Road, Homer, Glen, Illinois, case number HG 2316-AB. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason, is there a second? Second. Trustee Stylen. Trustee Mason, do you have any comments?
I do not have any at this time.
Trustee Stylen.
No, just that I think it's really nice to see people with building on larger lots within the village.
Trustee Reinders.
No comment.
Trustee Fialko.
I just want to make note that the planning commission did their job on this and on both sectors of this, both motions, we're 5-0 in favor of it. So thank you.
Trustee Consolino.
Same, no comment.
Trustee McNaughton.
No, thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Castellino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, consider for approval ordinance number 23-054, a request for 1, a map amendment for the R3A Single Family Residential to E1 Single Family Estate Residential. 2, a variance to reduce the lot frontage from 270 to 66 feet along Windsor Court. And 3, to establish the zoning lot lines for certain real property located on Lot 1 of Skeek, am I saying that right? Skeek?
Yes.
Skeek Estates Subdivision, Homer, Glen, Illinois, case number HG 2316-AB.
I so move.
Trustee Stylen, is there a second?
I second.
Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Stylen.
Sorry. The reason for this lot frontage makes a lot of sense. It's going to be on Windsor Court. It'll look nice in that subdivision as well.
Thank you. Trustee McNaughton.
No, I agree.
Trustee Fialko.
Again, the planning commission did the work on this and they voted 5-0 in favor of, so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino.
I wanted to ask staff, are there any concerns because it's such a large amount from 270 to 66 feet?
This does not bother me. I think mostly because of the oversized lot that it's sitting on.
Thank you.
Trustee Mason.
No, ma'am.
Trustee Reinders.
No.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Castellino.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4, consider for approval resolution number 23-013, a resolution supporting the protection of the heritage routes of Parker Road, Hadley Road, and Chicago-Bloomington Trail in Homer, Illinois. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I second.
Third, fourth.
All in favor? Trustee Consolino and Trustee Fialko. Trustee Consolino, do you have any comments?
Okay, there seem to be a lot of questions before tonight and then also at the podium for public comment. I'd like to explain that the resolution is not a law. It is not binding. It's an expressed sentiment by the board. This was something that I had suggested in both the Environment Committee and before the board a few meetings ago. It's our way of saying to Will County that we would prefer nothing be done and that we believe that this is a historic road. But however, I would like to ask publicly from staff if you could explain what is the likelihood that by doing this, we may gain historical status for the road? Because it's not in stone, and I do want people to understand that. I just want to be honest with the public.
I do not know 100% the answer to that question, Trustee Consolino, but I would tend to think that we would have to do more, I would believe.
Maybe the attorney.
But yeah. So Trustee Consolino.
I was going to ask Mr. O'Grady, could you elaborate on that?
The binding versus non-binding?
Well, the binding versus the non-binding, I think I said it pretty simply, correct?
Basically wants to understand what the purpose of the resolution.
Right, so trustee is correct. And I know the resolution does not create an obligation for the county to act. What it does is it encourages them and shows our support as a village on behalf of all the village and all the residents to take certain actions, and that's what we're encouraging them to do. So that's what the resolution is meant to for. So we will pass the resolution. If it passes tonight, we will go forward and on to the county, encouraging them to follow our lead.
Okay, and also with that, I mean, right now, it's my understanding that county board members were the ones to agree to put this on hold, but that is not a definite or permanent solution to the situation. So by pursuing historical status for the road, that's what I wanted to ask you, is what do you think the likelihood or the chance of achieving that kind of status, or do you need to look into that more?
For the county to declare Hadley a historical road?
No, I don't think that's what was it, is it the state or is it with?
So I would have to look into that more.
Okay, because that's kind of the question and concern that you're getting from a lot of these residents. At least that's what I've been receiving. So I want them to have a clear idea of what the status is in regards to this, that the resolution is just all of us showing our sentiment of we are supporting you, and this is what we can do on this level, and we could try to explore pushing the county or the state, whoever the powers may be, to grant us historical status for the road and protect it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. Trustee Bill?
Yes, for the residents that are over there on Hadley Road and Chicago Bloomington Trail, we are in support of, as far as I know from everybody I've talked to on the board, we're in support of helping you accomplish that goal. Obviously, this is a county issue at this point, but working with the county, working with, the way I understand it, we might have to work with the township or somehow work things out. Again, we don't have legal's opinion on this yet, and we don't have all the details. So I always hold off as best as I can until we have all those details. But with this resolution, it's basically it's a strong support that we support you. And that's all that we can do at this point. So we're there for you. We support what you're saying. As far as measurements and widening the road and the limitations, and as far as maintaining it, and whose responsibility that would be down the road, those are unknowns. And like the workshop, I believe you said we're going to put a workshop together. I think we're headed in the right direction with this resolution. It's kind of our commitment to help get us in that direction to have that workshop and then get you answers as to what will happen over there. But you have our support in doing this.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Naughton?
No, thank you.
Trustee Steinman?
Yes, I just have a comment question. In the resolution, section 5 says the village clerk is hereby authorized to direct and forward this copy onto the Will County Division of Transportation. And I'm wondering, when we send this, do we send a letter asking them for their stance on their stop? Because we've got a verbal stoppage, but we don't have anything else. So their plans for after they receive this resolution.
Mr. Barrett?
We'll request that. When we send it out, we'll make sure we get a request.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders?
I think the resolution points out that there are a lot of historical areas, and as Mr. Phillips had pointed out earlier, this was a Native American route. And in speaking with Melissa, and when she was doing her research, We found out that there was actually a post office out there were different reservations, there was a cemetery. So all these things factor into this road becoming historical, because the road in fact is very historical, and it's very scenic, and it's very rural. And we definitely want to continue to protect that. So we are going to continue to work as diligently as we possibly can to make this happen for the residents. And not only for our residents that live along there, but for all the residents of this village that enjoy driving down that road. So we're going to continue working, and hopefully by the time the workshop comes, that we will have all the answers that you need.
Thank you, Trustee McNaughton.
No, thank you.
I kind of give a big thank you to Melissa, because she did a great job on research for the historical value of that area that we never heard before on this dais. So thank you so much for going in depth and taking the time to do that for us.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. The only sentiments I have to add is that Trustee Bailey, you had stated about the township. Yeah, I think all municipalities should work together. However, I do want to make it clear that the township, and Trustee Reiners once again can testify to this, we received emails stating from IDOT and from the county that the township cannot take over the road. So that's just the legal opinion from them. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Stylen? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Bianco?
Aye.
Oh, wait. Before we vote, I gotta read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about that. Oh, this is a long one. Yeah.
Everybody should take a paragraph.
Yeah, all right. Trustee Consolino, you want to start? First whereas? I'll start with the bullets. A resolution in support of protecting the heritage routes of Parker Road, Hadley Road, and Chicago Bloomington Trail in Homer Glen, Illinois.
Whereas the Village of Homer Glen, Whereas the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, the Village is a home rule municipality pursuant to Section 6A, Article 6 of the 1970 Constitution of the State of Illinois, and as such may exercise any power and perform any function pertaining to its government and affairs, the home rule powers, including passing resolutions in support of protecting historic routes and.
Whereas Will County, under the jurisdiction of the Division of Transportation, is undergoing a Phase 1 study of the corridor known as County Highway 1, CH1, which starts as Parker Road at US 6 on the south and ends at the Cook County line via Hadley Road on the east. Hereafter, the Hadley-Parker Road Project, or the project. The local road name in this corridor are Parker Road, Chicago Bloomington Trail, Hadley Road, and 167th Street, and.
Whereas Will County has indicated that the existing pavement of Parker Hadley Road project has reached the end of its service life, and that the intent of Phase 1 study is to investigate the needs of the roadway structure to ensure safe and efficient traffic flow, and
Whereas the proposed Parker Hadley Road project improvements are located predominantly within the corporate limits of the Village of Homer Glen, or the planning jurisdiction of the Village of Homer Glen, and such as any proposed improvements will have a significant impact to the village residents and to the village's culture, environmental and historical resources located in and around the project and the project area, and
Whereas the corridor is heavily wooded with mature trees that provide not only an environmental benefit, but are a defining cultural aesthetic of Parker Road, Chicago Bloomington Trail, Hadley Road, and 167th Street, and
Whereas the village slogan, community, nature, and harmony exemplifies the commitment to quality of life through maintaining open space, preserving our unique rural character, and safeguarding our natural resources, and
whereas the Village of Homer Glen has adopted a tree preservation ordinance and has determined that trees are unique, intrinsically significant, and valuable assets due to their size, species, historic association, and ecology. They contribute significantly to the health and general welfare of the citizens of the community, and
Trustee Consolino, last paragraph, page 2.
Whereas the Will County Rural Historic Structural Survey states the Hadley area was an early rural crossroads settlement in northwest Will County. Its It's located along a route that had been a Native American trail. Although few structures from the original settlement remain, several intact farmsteads and other elements are extant along Hadley and Chicago-Bloomington roads. And
Whereas the Will County Rural Historical Structural Survey describes this area as a region forming a heritage trail in southeast Homer Township with numerous architectural resources and unique landscape views, and further identifies 7 farm stands, Hadley Cemetery, the Hadley Settlement, and Stone Manor as historical structures, and which are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And
Whereas the Will County Rural Historic Structural Survey recommends that the Hadley Road and Chicago-Bloomington Road be named as a heritage route. The survey indicates that Hadley and Chicago-Bloomington Road area is a unique example in the region due to its topography, the heritage of its path through the region, originally a Native American trail, and one of the few non-orthogonal roads in the area, and the remaining historic structures and farmstead sites. Additional research and planning is necessary to define and implement the preservation of the proposed Hadley Road and Chicago-Bloomington Road heritage route. And
whereas the region's first post office was established on July 27, 1835 at the intersection of present-day Parker and Chicago-Bloomington roads. The small post office furnished mail for a large area, including the settlements of Worth and Oak Lawn, with the mail carried on horseback from Chicago. Settlers in the region named the area Hadley after Hadley, Massachusetts, where the emigrated from and for which Hadley Road is named. And
whereas the 2005 Village of Homer Glen Comprehensive Plan recommends that a potential heritage corridor be established in the vicinity of Hadley and Chicago-Bloomington roads, and that the village should consider more formal procedures for recognizing and designating structures and districts with historic value, and explore techniques that could help maintain and preserve the resources for the future.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the village president and the village board of trustees of the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, by and through its home rule powers as follows.
Section 1, that the above recitals and legislative findings are found to be true and correct and hereby incorporated herein and made part hereof, as if fully set forth in their entirety.
Section 2, the Village of Homer Glen hereby supports the protection of Parker Road, Hadley Road, and Chicago-Bloomington Trail as heritage routes in Homer Glen, Illinois.
Section 3, the Village of Homer Glen urges the Will County Division of Transportation to protect the cultural, environmental, and historical resources of this road network, and to acknowledge this area as an environmental and cultural asset that is worth preserving.
Section 4, the Village of Homer Glen requests the Will County Division of Transportation to consider preserving these heritage routes in planning, implementing, or constructing the Parker Hadley Road project, or any such similar project in this vicinity.
Section 5, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a copy of the resolution to the Will County Division of Transportation.
Section 6, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval in the manner provided by law.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Proudly, aye.
Trustee Bialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
And Trustee Reiner?
Aye.
Motion carries. That was a long one and a tongue twister, I will say.
Madam Mayor, can I make a comment?
Sure.
We accidentally, in the beginning, stated Article 6. It's actually Article 7.
Yes. Sure.
I just wanted to say that I'm proud of our residents when they get together and come together to preserve something in our community. And there are two residents that, I don't know how many residents know, but there are 2 websites that have been put together by the residents for the sake of other people who do not know this area and may not drive it frequently. There's aerial photography and video of driving down the road. And those websites are parker-hadley.com and safeparkerroad.com. And I would just encourage people to take a look at those. And there's also a nice historical article on the Parker Hadley one about when the road was a mud road. And I found it very interesting.
I believe everyone voted correct. Motion carries. Congratulations on the first step. Okay, moving on.
Melissa.
That's okay. Item 5, consider for approval a motion to approve one of 4 construction bids that the village received a bid closing on August 15, 2023 for the Village of Homer Glen Heritage Park parking expansion project. Trustee?
And I'll second.
I guess that everyone wait till I say is there a motion, so everyone's not jumping in once. Trustee Consolino, and I believe Trustee Steinman had a second. Trustee Consolino? Yes. Trustee Steinman?
I want to say that this is a very difficult issue because I want more parking and I want some hard services for our events in our community. And what's before us is a bid for 3 lots, and we've had several options presented to us. And when I first voted on this to go out to bid, it was, I was under the understanding it was very similar to the plan that we had for the overall park plan. But then I found out that the cul-de-sac road, the parking lot that was the alternative to the cul-de-sac road, didn't go back to the sled hill. And I think our community is a community that prides itself in accessibility. So I have a great concern about not having that cul-de-sac road reach the sled hill, or parking reach the sled hill. So we asked for several different options. The village engineer has been very good at answering questions. I have sent a flurry of them, and I appreciate that very much. There were some different cost options because I think the last meeting we asked for a breakdown of what each parking lot was going to cost, but the breakdown didn't really, I think it was kind of hard because the bid is, it's all together. You know, you're buying this much cement, you're not using this much cement in this lot or this much in that. So it really was hard to break it down, and there's estimates involved, as well as one of the options that was presented was there was a rectangular lot that was the alternative to the sled hill, and one option was to attach a cul-de-sac portion to the rectangular lot. Again, it's not in this bid, and it is an option, but it's an estimated cost again. And so, and there's no date to when that would be done. And I really don't like to see the residents have to wait and not know if they're going to get access to that sled hill. I'm not opposing it. There's a lot of work that is going to go into the ring road. It moves back at a minimum of 27 feet. That's taking into consideration 19 feet for the parking spot, and then an additional 5 feet for a sidewalk, and maybe 3 feet after that. I'm not sure if that's part of the swale changes or the drainage improvements. But I think there's still some uncertainties there. It is also going to add a lot more light to the park, because once we move the parking further to the west on that ring road, the lighting there isn't going to be adequate to light the whole road, so we're going to have to add light fixtures to the east side of the road. And again, this community prides itself in being a dark sky community, so there's concerns. I think the drawings show them being across each other, but I think I'd like to see them alternate when that finally does get done. So anyway, my point being is I still feel like I can't vote on this bid because it's not getting to what I would like to see. And so I'm just telling you that I want more parking. I want it get it done as fast as possible. I don't want to delay it. I would like to see a breakdown. And actually, I really think it should go out to bid again with the cul-de-sac road option as well. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Trustee Simon. Trustee Mason?
Actually, I've been working on this since we left the last meeting. I have met with Mr. Westcott. I have met with Mr. Baber. I have talked to multiple trustees and made many phone calls and talked to Tria. And Sue's absolute, or trustee Steinle, sorry, is absolutely right. We couldn't break it down apples to apples. And Brett and I had several meetings, and Joe and I had several meetings. And we know that we need to move forward. We have heard our residents. They do want the cul-de-sac road. We did pass the parking to put this out for bid. We know that we can cover, and Brett did put together a lot of good numbers for us. He gave us an option B, which was the current parking, which gave us ample if we continue that, Brett, and thank you, and jump in if I say something wrong. But that brought us out to the cul-de-sac. So I don't know if I make the motion now to amend it to the B, but I would like to see the parking that we've agreed upon, aesthetically pleasing to the eye on the portion that Ms. Steinle, or the trustee Steinle had just stated, which is the rectangular parking going out that way, and we talked about that earlier today as well. I think we can get this done. I think we can move forward. I think we've heard the residents. I want to make sure, and I think the mayor, because I've had talks with you as well, gave me a great example. She said 3 children with their mom, single mom, holding a baby, walking from that parking lot out to the sled hill. Doesn't work. We bought the lighting. That was my biggest, watch my mom complain. And we bought the electric, and we've done all these things. So I think we can incorporate and find that happy medium. And I worry about the vet that wants to watch his grandson, but he doesn't want to trek through a half a mile of snow. I worry about the disabled person that can't make it, the same thing. So I think if we can amend the motion to add option B, which is to create that cul-de-sac, and excuse me, Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, we can aesthetically make this appeasing to the eye and incorporate it with the current plan. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
And can we get a drop dead date? Because I would not want to pass this if I didn't know we were going to continue on, or we're going to halt it. We did do the clay base, I know that. We can see it from satellite. I know we purchased the lights, it was meant for that. I know we have the wire, and cost being cost, I don't want to beat it up anymore. I want to move forward, I want to do this for the residents. And I've talked to Trustee Reiners, I don't know how many times, and Mr. Fialco, and Trustee Fialco, and everybody that I could possibly do. I've been on the phone, I feel beat up more than a mirror on this one. I guess I've said my piece, but I think we can move forward if we can amend. Is that, can I do that at this point, Paul? Can I make a motion to amend to add option B, which is the creation of the cul-de-sac, but I do want a drop dead date that we're going to start that project. So if we start the first part of this, I want the second part completed, not in 2058, but 2024, 2025, max.
The issue I have, if you don't mind my stuff on Thursday, I don't know if you can do that because I don't believe it's part of the bid that's in here. So we're voting on the bid. What we can do is get a consensus to move forward with the, and I don't know how you guys all feel, but a consensus to move forward with the cul-de-sac road, and then we can set a date. And I don't know if necessarily setting a date's going to work because you got to go off bid, you got to go off this, the weather, and all that fun stuff. But maybe you can say before we proceed with any other project in the park or something of that nature. Maybe a consensus would be better than we'll accept whatever bid or accept the bid today and then move forward with the ring road.
That works for me, Madam Mayor, and I truly... Yeah, and that works for me, and I truly appreciate that. I would like to see that to where we come up with a consensus, and before we start any other projects, we're moving forward with the cul-de-sac because I think it helps all residents and all concerns at that point. And actually, Brett, if we got equipment out there, and Joe, you can jump in if you want, if we got equipment and we're doing the work, actually, we're gonna save some money here. We're gonna save some money because we're gonna continue to give the people in the village what they want. But we've already got the people there, and you're starting to buy quantity now, and so cost reduction. Anybody want to jump in and correct me, please do.
Yeah, to elaborate on that, essentially, right, if we do decide to move forward with the current project as it sits right now, we're really looking at maybe 2 months for sure, depending on the weather, right, on what they can do. The controlling items, the storm sewer, the big thing is that they can get that ordered and get those fabricated and get that out here. Depending on how far they make it by the end of the year, right, we're for sure looking at paving into next year. They're probably not going to get bindered out this year. That's fine, right? That's standard practice in construction. It happens. They generally try to get the binder and the asphalt down in the springtime. So that gives us, you know, if we want to jump on this immediately, right, time to put together some of this design, time to get something put together quantity-wise and have a unit breakdown and a price, and time for us to take that and present that to the contractor that's on site as a change order to say, what kind of prices can you give us on these things? You're out here already, you're already putting in X amount of tons of asphalt, you want to add on another X amount of tons of asphalt, what kind of price can you give us? And it's economies of scale. So there's a benefit there for that. Putting together the plan for the cul-de-sac and generating a unit price, a unit breakdown list for that allows us to look at those prices and look at that cost, analyze that, and determine if that's a fair number that they're giving us or not. And if it's not a fair number, you can always take it and go out to bid, right? We're not locked into anything. But generally speaking, they're out here already, save on mobilization, economies of scale, so we likely get a better cost on that at that point, right? And people generally don't say no.
Correct, and thank you for that, Brett, because that's kind of what my thought process was too. If we're already working, we're already doing it, we already have the equipment, we're already giving you this bid, maybe you're gonna work with us to finish this off and everybody's happy. Thank you, sir.
Is that all, Mr. Mason?
I'm done.
Trustee Reiners, did you have something to add or something?
What I would just like to say is I would like to thank Brett Westcott for all of his hard work on this and the Parks Committee. I mean, we have gone over and over and over this, and I mean, we've actually talked with the soccer club. We've talked with different people that have just been out in the park, and you know what they were looking for. And you know, with the increase in all the activities that are going in the park, we're going to need this parking. Every year we seem to have more and more activities. So, and we also talked about at the parks level about adding additional soccer fields. And for us, our thought process was with the inner ring road, now the people can actually park right up against the soccer fields, and their kids aren't going to be running across the street to come across to be able to go to the soccer fields. So, and moms they can tailgate, they can socialize. It just provides a whole much more safer environment for the soccer area. But also, thinking about the events that we do have in the park. Once we have the cul-de-sac road, yes, it's going to be used in the winter for the sled hill, but in the summer, we could add additional activities there. And I think Trustee Mason and I talked about that today, where we could put a car show up inside the cul-de-sac road, and we could have a market down with a band down in the other portion of the road. So it actually just provides a lot more parking and a lot more accessibility to the park. I mean, our park is our grand jewel of Homer Glen. We have 103 acres out there, and we want people, every resident in this community to be able to enjoy it. So we're working very hard, and we also talked about moving forward with, and I talked a little bit earlier about the Parks Committee, moving forward with the Veterans Memorial, moving forward with putting pavilions in the park. We want to build up our park. We want to make our park what it was meant to be. It was meant to be enjoyed by all the residents. So thank you again, Brett, and thank you all the trustees for all working together on this to come to a great resolution.
Sorry, Joe.
I think that Rose, in your Parks Committee, you guys have been very patient with the delays that we've taken to try and go through this with a fine-tooth comb. My question to the attorney would be this. We've already approved this project, I believe, for the same amount of money back at the end of July or the beginning of August, we tabled this item so we could look at it. It was already approved though, and I believe the approval was just what we're approving now without, well, we've added this for the later date, yes, I get that part. But as far as what we approved, so when we have something that the board has already approved, Mr. O'Grady, for that certain amount of money, and now we're bringing this back as a second action item on an item that we've already passed, I'm not sure how to move forward.
I can't remember, so if it's already been approved and it was unanimous, then there's no action to be taken. That's your question. But
I'm saying, right.
This was for the bid, Dan, not to interrupt you.
These are actually for the bids.
Correct. We voted to get bids. We are now voting to approve.
Table though,
We
should
voted.
have been approved. Well, it was approved, it needed to come back to say that, yes, we're all good with moving forward, because you tabled it, I believe. And then we would be voting on this too, kind of like at the same time, because we already have an action item that we took on this.
Trustee Fielko, we voted to move forward with getting bids, and we are now voting on whether we're going to pass those bids. That's where we're.
Here,
what you're saying is we put something on the table and we have to take it off the table.
We've already got something that we've all voted on in the past. And then it was, we asked to table that item, and we all agreed to table, so Trustee Mason kind of did the things that he did, with talking with everybody, and kind of worked out the fine details, which was great. But what I'm saying is we're sitting on two things, and I just want to make sure we're doing things properly here by not, or by omitting the tabled item and moving forward with this.
I think we're fine, it's still on the table, so we can move forward with this.
Okay. Do you know what that item actually said?
No, but if it's still on the table, we have to take it off the table, right?
But what I'm
We're gonna act on it.
What I'm saying is it almost seemed like we're putting the cart before the horse kind of thing with the thing that we've already, action item we've already approved. That's all I'm saying. If that can be straightened out at a later date, I guess I'm fine with that. I know that we've already approved the spending of the money, and yes, now we can choose one of these, but we still have something on the table that's important.
Trustee McNaughton.
Thank you. Starting off on a positive note, you know, this has been in discussion for multiple years. Of interest, we're no longer discussing the finite details of the grant. I mean, listen, we've had Jim from TRIA in here multiple times. Brett Westcott, thank you. From the Employee Appreciation Lunch discussion the other day to your numerous emails, spreadsheets running numbers like crazy. Joe Baber, Village Manager, thank you. You know, I see there's also 5 options that are broken down here. It is very important to me when we look at the cul-de-sac, which is in the original plan, not to beat a dead horse for all of the reasons that everyone, Trustee Reinders, Stylen, Trustee Mason have already discussed. I believe if the clay base is already there, the original plan for just the cul-de-sac, and again, that's an area that's very important to me. I've been out there with my kids many times. I think it's important to have that going as close to that sledding hill as possible. I would like to move the conversation forwards and to the community. We've heard you, and it's about time we got something done with this. I'm ready for us to align, put this into action, and I think we're closer than we think. Thank you.
Trustee Councilman, I'm going to circle back to you.
No.
Okay. I have a couple sentiments just to say. I just want to say thank you to the trustees who worked together to get all this done. I know it wasn't easy. I knew it was a few olive branches going back and forth, and to hear it come to this is really nice to hear. As I said, I wasn't voting on this. It was up to the trustees to make the decision on this, so I'm happy to hear that. I do want to hear a consensus, though, or not consensus, if we are going to move forward with the cul-de-sac at a later date. I know, Trustee McNaughton, you said you
it's important to you, trustee Mason, you did. Trustee Steiner, I didn't hear from you about the cul-de-sac. Yes? Consensus? Trustee Fialko, to move forward on the cul-de-sac?
When the completion of this project would be approximately?
Like, complete with the cul-de-sac and everything, or just what's that?
Without the cul-de-sac road.
So,
If we were to approve this today, when approximately would that work be completed?
if you wanted to flip in the packet, I show, it's kind of a Gantt chart breakdown here. And that pushes us, this was with us starting way back in July and August there. So now we're pushed into towards the end of September. So that kind of shifts things around a little bit. But I would say likely you're looking at still maybe the same time frame. It depends. It's weather dependent really, because you're doing construction through a lot of the winter months. Maybe it's a mild winter, maybe your winter shutdown's not that bad. Maybe they're able to get out there and complete a lot of the storm sewer and get all of their structures and their pipes faster. I would say probably a fair estimate would say maybe you push it more towards May or June. But again, you can work with the contractor on these things. If the concern is this potentially impacting Homerfest or any sort of access into the ring road, we can put a priority on completing the ring road first. I think that it's very feasible to say that they'd be able to get in there, do the storm sewer, do the curb, do the sidewalk, and stone that inner ring road before they have their winter shutdown this year, and then they can come back, take care of whatever else they need to in the other lots. The inner ring road is the largest percentage of the cost for the work because of the labor to retrofit on the existing storm sewers and all those kind of things. So I think that by default, that's kind of almost your critical path as it is. So to ask them to get in there and prioritize that, I don't think is beyond, I think that's a very reasonable request. And I think that very realistically, a lot of these things can be wrapped up by before summertime next year, I would say.
Brett, can I ask you a question? I'm committed to that.
Okay. Trustee Reinders, do you have a consensus to that?
I'm good with it.
Trustee Consolino, do you have a consensus? The only question I had, and I don't know if it was answered, was there at some point about electricity, that the electricity was going to run from the far end of the park to the front of the park for the parking? Was there an issue about the way the electric ran through the park?
So there will be a new feed that will come from the ComEd line that runs just out here on the north side of 151st Street to power lighting for the 151st Street lot. There is conduit and additional wire that runs up to the new poles on the inner ring road as well to support those. Part of the reason behind that is to run on the poles. There's a separate lighting controller that's going to go in out here on the 151st Street lot. There is an existing lighting controller in the shed out here for the existing lights in the ring road as it sits. There is also a ComEd transformer power pad. There's a power pedestal there in that shed or adjacent to that shed as well. So part of the lights are pulling from the existing controller, part of the lights are going to be pulling from the new light controller, and then the reason for the kind of redundancy things with that too, as part of working with our parks and our event staff, some of the things that they had requested was to have additional outlets put on the lights that stay hot, right? So the lights can be shut off and you can still have outlets on for like, what's the movie in the park? Yes.
So my question is that the electricity that runs through the park, is that going to have any future impact on any additions that we put on the park?
Not that I would be aware of, no. I would have to defer officially to the designers on that one, but I would.
That's my fear, is that if we want to put something in, then we have to pump brakes because now we have electricity running underground.
In terms of where those conduits and all those things will be running. Okay, yes, I got you.
I want to make sure that there's no impact. And then the second thing is, if we're adding additional lights, now you're saying we're putting additional lighting into this ring road, right?
Yes.
And now we're adding more lighting into the cul-de-sac. How is that going to affect the neighbors that back up to this park? Is there going to be lights shining in their house?
I don't anticipate that. A lot of the lights are going to be the same exact lights that are out here right now, which are relatively low. They meet our dark sky ordinance. I understand that there's more of them. If that is truly a concern, I can run photometrics on that to make sure that that terminates before it gets to the edge of Heritage Park to verify it as well.
If we can do that, and that's just my consensus on that, or my statement on that.
Understood. One last question.
Brett, thank you again, and that's great information and on the electric, and thank you for asking that, and the lighting. As we talked about the parking lot and timeframes, and you and I did this, and Mr. Baber, it's really not impeding once we get out to the cul-de-sac, because the cul-de-sac can be done and when this piece is done or that piece is done, and really there's nothing out there and there's nobody going there anyway, and we're all set and the base is there as we discussed. So as far as the cul-de-sac on the time frame, we can go from, and me personally, if I'm in construction, which I've done a little bit myself, I go from this job and right into the next one that's next door. I don't stop, I continue, and that is our plan, sort of, correct?
That would be the intent, yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Madam Clerk. Oh, sorry, Trustee Stein has something.
Why did we go with that alternative parking lot versus the cul-de-sac?
That's an excellent question. So I think there was some misunderstanding initially on what we could and could not use from TRIA in terms of their plans and the cul-de-sac. I think previously the understanding was that if we used those plans, we had to pay them, which in essence is not completely, untrue, right? Because at the end of the day, to use those plans and bid them the way that we would want to bid them, right, there would be additional costs associated with that, to rework that, if the intent's not to use TRIA, right, and manage these projects in-house, we would need to take them out of the equation of those specifications, and this is the architectural set of plans. It's not bid the same way as an engineering set of plans. An engineering set of plans is a breakdown for each unit, for each pay item at a unit price, and the architectural plans are bid as a lump sum. The lump sum works, right? They do that a lot. They do that on other things. But also, you still have to make sure that you still have the proper amount of inspection going on. We can't have visits once or twice a week, right? You want to be out there every day watching what's going on, making sure that we're getting the best quality product that we're paying for. So in terms of what changed this design, I think initially it was just the direction was to, that we couldn't use the cul-de-sac without paying TRIA again, and that the option was to come up with an alternative parking layout that put parking in that same area, that provided a turnaround for people, as well as some parking spaces in that area, but didn't mimic the cul-de-sac road. So I think now that we've gone through these presentations with TRIA and dealt with them and all that, what licenses or rights we have with those plans, I think that's clarified a lot of things. So things have changed a little bit. But I think that at the end of the day, like we had said, that the option B is a very good, viable alternative. I think, as Trustee Mason has said, you can make that aesthetically pleasing to tie into the cul-de-sac, right? There's no set plans for that yet. So if there's any input, or if there's any changes that we want to see made, we still have time to do that. There is a turnaround road at the north end of that parking lot. I think that would provide ample space for you to be able to tie the cul-de-sac into that without really kind of just making it look like it's piecemeal together, right? And I think that we just have to trust that everyone will provide input, we'll get input from staff as well, to make sure that this is the most, visually appeasing and not clunky, piecemeal together, plan that we can put out there, so.
All right, any more final statements?
I want to make one more comment to Trustee Fialco. When you're worrying about not accepting this bid, we at one time accepted a bid for the cul-de-sac road, and we purchased materials. So there is a precedent for that having happened. I am concerned about how this is all going to tie together, and I still don't feel an assurance that this is going to happen with the cul-de-sac road. What is assuring me that we're going to have the sled hill access?
We had a consensus. We will make sure that we get it on the agenda and coming up. Brad will take the lead on getting engineer plans and all that fun stuff. The world of engineers, whatever he's got to do, we'll get it going.
Right,
Ultimate with the date.
Yeah, ultimately, it's your guys' decision, right, at the end of the day, on what we move forward with. But you know, if we get the green light on this and the consensus is that that's what we want to do, I'll call our consultants tomorrow and we'll get going on it, and we'll get things together, right? Time is of the essence, I understand that, and I know that it's in our best interest to complete this and get that done so that we can get it out, right, while the contractor is still on site. And, you know, I think that that's in our best interest for sure. Again, you guys give me the green light, let's go. I'm ready to rock. I've been trying to get out here and do something, right?
I do want to, we've had a long time, so I was, I know Trustee Gale and Trustee Reiner said something to answer Trustee Gale.
I would also, because she might be saying.
Trustee Reiner,
The one thing that I do wanted to point out, and you had a great point about, you know, where, if it's going to disturb anything, the electric, if it's going to disturb anything else that's going within the park. And Brett has worked from day one on the replacement of where we want to move over the water feature, where the bedrooms the more is going. So he's well aware of where everything is placed now within the master plan. So I think moving forward, he can refer to all of that, because that's what the committee decided on where we were placing these things, and that we were trying to do it that where it would not interfere with anything else.
I understand the committee agreed to that, but the board hasn't.
No,
So,
I understand it.
yeah.
I've discussed that with a couple of the trustees.
As long as you guys got it.
I've discussed it with a couple of trustees, and that's, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that he knows where things are and where things will be placed, so he could watch out for that.
And actually, I can't take credit for the electric question. That was actually a question from Trustee Stein.
Well, thank you, Trustee Stein.
Trustee Gale, do you have anything to add?
The oversight of this project will be done by you, right? The engineer with the PE, TRIA, and their participation here. We've got stuff in the packet, but that was just for examples, not for any illustration that they're going to be taken care of, correct? So you're going, that's why we did hire a PE, so you could do a lot of that work.
Yes.
And you're doing a great job, thank you for that, and thank you for putting up with, you know, all our, you know, things that we're trying to iron out. I think you've done a great job, thank you for that.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call roll. CJ.
No, the only thing that I was just thinking is Mr. Westcott was walking through how we went from the original cul-de-sac to, you know, the different set of plans that were drawn up. It's a question, not a statement. We would have to manage, or you would have to manage the construction of both of them, right? So, I mean, just comparing apples to apples, I know you spoke a little bit about architectural plans versus design detail. So I just wanted to clarify that point as well, just to make sure that when we talk about managing the project costs, that would be in place for both, not just one.
Yeah, correct. And so at the end of the day, right, whichever option we were to move forward with, that would be managed in-house. The analysis that I put together for this was just, I tried to keep it, one, the tree option with their oversight in this, and then the other being the current project with the oversight that we have planned for this, and, you know, so on and so forth, just to try to do that, like we said, the apples to apples thing. But yes, to answer the question, moving forward, that's in-house with us.
Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, the bid that is being accepted is deconstruction at $1,872,760.28. HR Green and the village engineer recommends award of the contract contract 2D construction in the amount of $1,872,760.28. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Steinle?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye.
Goes back to Trustee
Trustee
Stein.
Steinle?
Aye. Motion carries. Kind of want to clap in a way, but. Consider for approval of a quote of $5,900 from Instant Shade, Inc. to relocate trees within Heritage Park for Heritage Park parking expansion project. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko, is there a second? Trustee Mason? Trustee Fialko, do you have any comments?
The only comment I would make is, I believe when this started ways back, I asked for us to look at this a little bit closer with the business that's in Homer Glen. and how we could work with that business a little bit closer possibly, and that is instant shape. So I'm happy to see that we've got a business in Homer Glen that does this type of work, and yes, I support this.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
Well, we did have a cheaper quote, but the trees need to be moved. I've talked to Jen Vittori multiple times on this. I've been due diligent, and I can't thank Trustee Reinders enough and the rest of the board for working with us to get the people on. Thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
I've worked with Instant Shade before, and they're really good to work with, Rick Gomez's. Will there be any grading done where the trees are being removed? Or
So where the trees are being scooped out of the ground, I think temporarily we can fill that with just spoils for the, from the Public Works Department or the road department there. Ideally, right, the trees are removed out of the way and the contractor gets out here right away and they set up their construction fence and their silt fence and stuff like that, and it's clearly delegated. From a safety concern though, if there are going to be holes in the ground there, we can fill those back in temporarily. The trees are being relocated, right, because they're in conflict with the construction, so at some point, right, that's going to be all torn up anyways. But between now and then, if the concern is over safety, then absolutely it'll be taken care of. We'll fill those in.
Okay, and this will be taken care of this fall?
Yes, correct. This will need to happen prior to the construction project.
Trustee Consolino?
No, it's time to vote.
I have to let everyone else speak. Trustee McNaughton?
I agree with Trustee Consolino.
Trustee Reinders?
I'm just happy we're moving forward.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I have just one fraction of the I'm sorry, but you need their time to me, I guess. But if you don't mind, just to answer your question as far as the fee and it being, there being a less expensive one, the answer is in that second paragraph under background information, and that company had the largest fee, creating the less stress on the roots of the trees. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Bianco?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Yes, aye.
Trustee Mason?
Yes, ma'am, aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 7, consider for approval ordinance number 23-050, an ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of liquor license except for Class E and Class J licenses for a period of 6 months. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Bianco, Trustee Consolino?
Yes.
Trustee Bianco?
No, and the reason for my hesitation was Sue had asked for this. I didn't want to step on.
Trying to get to her, but.
Yeah. I have no comment. I kind of explained it earlier. Our goal, I guess, to say something short, our goal is not to take a bunch of time on this. I've talked with Joe Baker about this. We're all going to give our input to the liquor license. We plan on, within a meeting or two, to get this taken care of, and then move on to the gaming, 1 or 2 meetings, move on to the tobacco, and have it done within less than 3 months, hopefully. But again, that 6 months is just a cushion of time. It's not, in concrete, that's how long it's going to take.
I apologize, I should have stated before I read the motion that Trustee Reinders has to recuse herself as she has a liquor license. Trustee Stylen?
No comment.
Trustee McNaughton?
We are open for business. We are business friendly. This will not take 6 months.
Trustee Consolino, did I call you on already?
No, I passed.
Oh, you passed, okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, Trustee Mason. Really?
Yes, I would like to agree with Trustee Bianco. And young man, if you're still in the audience, we are business friendly. I do agree with you as well. I know this started in September 14th of 22 is the first time I got in front of the board. I don't believe that it's going to take the 6 months to get this ratified and fixed. And I know we're on one end of it, you're on the other. I'm in sales in my real career and on operations, and sometimes I gotta walk the line and do my job on the front side of things too, sir. But thank you very much. We appreciate you being here.
Melissa King, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, may I address the board for a minute?
Sure.
I just want to clarify for staff's purposes ahead of the first stage of this. I guess we're going to handle liquor, is that correct?
Correct.
So right now, from what I've seen in meetings, we've not been given any concrete direction on what would be changed. So would you like staff to just present the liquor license as it is? Do you want staff to take a look at things that we know we would recommend first? I guess I'd like to know what kind of format you would expect it in for the first meeting. Is it just going to be the code as is, or would you like there to be some red line on it already?
So this was the plan. Deputy Clerk Gina Marcotte and I, when I was the clerk, were addressing different concerns of this liquor license. Unfortunately, we were never able to present to the board. So I would like Deputy Clerk Gina Marcotte to take the first stab at it as she deals with this on a regular basis. I would also like yourself and Jamie then to take a look at it. And then I would like it to go to Economic Development Committee, as it should, every ordinance change should go before the committee that it has to deal with. And then, once everyone has their changes, then I'd like it for the board to review and have their statements. I would also like to have the attorney review for the ordinance changes. I know it seems like a lot, but that is how the process should be done.
When do you want the attorney's review within the process?
Well, I believe Ms. Marcotte has just started, she showed me today a stack this big of comparables from other towns, so she's already started. I mean, as soon as you get it, I would like it to go to CED, and then it can go to Paul for some changes, and then for the board to review, and if we need to make minor detail changes, we can.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add to that, though, is I think the input of the trustees before we review something that's been changed. I've talked about it with Joe, and I think I talked about it with Gina Marcotte also, is I think the better way to be would all of us look at the liquor license and give our notes what we think should be changed to Gina and Joe, and then start making those changes. So we're not spending an hour here amending something after we get it from somebody else making the change. I think our input in the process, but we have to move on that and not hold off. I think for us to get that information to you guys right away and that process to take place and change it is more important than us coming to a meeting after it's kind of all done without trustees' input. So I would like to see us all give our input in the middle of the process so we can see what the changes are that everybody wants to make and not do that at the meeting when it comes to the board.
Trustee Gibb, I respectfully disagree. I believe Gina is in the right path. We've already done this. I was a clerk for 4 years. We've been reviewing it for 4 years. We know the things that you guys want to change. She's aware.
Well, then maybe we should make a list.
This is what I'm recommending. Let them look at it. It's their job. It's not our job. It's their job. That's what she does every day. Let the staff do their job. They can present their recommended changes. There's 7 of us. There's 1 of her. Let her do her job. Then we can look at her changes and say, yay or nay, there's a little issue here, 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 and here. I have full faith that she'll get the job done.
No doubt.
Okay.
But
Janie, did you have something to add? You had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say, that's fine, we can do that however you'd like. The ED committee is a brand new committee, and I don't know how much experience actually all of our resident volunteers on the committee have with code. My background on this has been it's easier to provide background, and then here are some suggested changes. What do you think about those changes? And as your role as the ED committee and what you're supposed to, your scope, what would you recommend that we do about this is maybe more productive than having a carte blanche. Staff does have ideas, and I know you and Gina have those ideas, and I've already provided some red line suggestions to start this process as well. And so we have something to start with, and we can go to ED that way. But I'm just wondering, CJ, we haven't even had a chance to talk about this.
A little bit, but not on this level of depth. Yeah, I understand what you were saying. It should go to the ED committee prior to it goes to the board, just like with any other committee, right? Make recommendations, and then based on those recommendations, we can take a look at it as a board.
That's right.
I have a question. So is that what the ED committee is going to be doing, is reviewing these type of?
Anything that has to do with economic development.
Okay, I have no problem with going to Gina and staff, but I think the longer we wait by putting it to committee and then coming before the board, then you really are pushing the time envelope.
We'll get it done. I have full faith in the staff to get it done right away, get it done with ED.
But realistically, it's this board's job to change ordinances. And I know that she's got the background to do so, but hear me out. It's our job as a board to change ordinances. And waiting to the last minute to give our input. And if it's going to go to ED, I get it. But really, what you're doing is you're taking the place of what was admin and finance. They reviewed all things that got changed like that. And that's okay. I'm all for it. I think that you'll do fine. But the problem that I do have is with the comment that was made, this board should not have input till...
I didn't say that.
You said you disagreed with me, that she is staff and knows how to do it. This board is in charge of making the changes to the ordinance in the end. And our input is very important to that process and shouldn't be looked at...
Please don't raise your voice at me. Don't raise your voice. Yes, you are. You're raising your voice.
No, I don't talk however I want. The thing is...
Excuse me,
the thing is, I think this board should be able to give their input and to be included in the process, not at the last minute.
Okay.
And I know you know your job very well. I'm not denying it. But when we make changes to anything, it is this board's responsibility. It is our duty to do that. And for our input to be included in the process is instrumental to its changes. And then we can all come to an agreement instead of us having this argument at the end and nobody knew what somebody else wanted to change. I think it's only fair that everybody has.
Trustee Fialko, we just sat here for 2 months, letting the Parks Committee review and our engineer. Everyone said we trust the engineer to do his job for the parks. That's the Parks Committee's recommendation. This is now an ED ordinance. Let that committee handle it. Gina is going to have that done. Gina, when do you think you'll have your changes done by?
So if we're just looking at the liquor license, I do have already stuff on there, red line versions. I could easily meet with Janie and Melissa and see what their suggestions are as well. And when is the next committee for ED? 1st of October?
October, early October.
We could push to get it done for that.
Yeah, fine. Then once the ED looks at it, we'll come to the board. We've done it with every other change that we have. Why is this any different?
It's huge to this village, that's why.
So is the park. We just spent $2 million. I mean, it's important.
Well, that has nothing to do with the liquor license, nothing.
Trustee Simon.
This village has a long history of committees working on ordinances. I have helped draft ordinances, worked on ordinances with the Environment Committee, the tree ordinance, the lighting ordinance. I can't even think, there's been other ones. So the committees serve as a recommending body, just like we have a plan commission that reviews things and then they come to the board. So I think it's very prudent to have a committee of residents say what they would like to see or what they don't like to see happening with liquor in the community. I think it's perfectly fine for any trustee that's on this board to send comments to trustee senior moment. and let his committee review those. And then when it comes to the board, so we don't spend excessive amount of time on this. Thank you.
Trustee Mason, do you have something to add?
Gia's been trying to...
Right, I'm asking you as a
No,
trustee.
ma'am.
Trustee McNaught, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I do believe that it should follow due process as we do with all of the other committees and give a subset of the community that have volunteered to serve on the ED committee a chance to provide some input. We're not making any decisions. As the chair, I'm not making a decision. I'm listening to the community and I'm bringing those forwards to the board to review, to discuss, and vote on.
Trustee Fialko, do you have anything else to add?
There's no argument with that. And committees are very important, no doubt. But we have a Parks Committee, and you guys took and turned and brought things back and didn't listen to the committee the first and second and third and fourth time. But that's okay. That's part of the process. What I'm saying it's okay for you to take and review it with your committee. But I think that our ideas should be incorporated to the change as a red line. If your committee doesn't like it at that time, that red line, you would put the question mark to it and say, well, we have a question about this. And what I'm saying is don't approve something in committee that hasn't been, without the input of yourself and the trustees to the changes that you may want. I mean, I know one thing that I'm talking about is the requirement that you have to live in the village of Homer Glen to get a liquor license. That is one thing I'd like to put in to have changed as a red line item that I would give to Gina and Joe, and then that would be presented to you. And that's one example. There's another example, and there were a requirement under special events is, I think it's J3 or J2, that requires putting all this double fencing around an area for a special event. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about that I would present, or you would present, to Gina Marcotte to make the changes, to then send to you, to then be approved or not, or to talk about it, and then bring it to the board. I just don't want to handle these things at a board level when I have these ideas and I could have submitted them to Gina Marcotte and then it would be passed on to you, and then to be ignored till the day we have the meeting and spend an hour redlining things. That's my concern.
Trustee Consolino, do you have anything to add? Gia, you had something to say?
I was just going to offer a possible solution if after, here's your bike back. A possible solution after it goes to staff, after it goes to committee, and everything is redlined, would you want an online version to be sent to the trustees to discuss prior to the board meeting that you would be in?
I believe that's what I said. If someone keeps saying we'll bring it to the board, no, then it would go to the trustees for them to submit their changes. But, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Bianco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Reiners?
Oh, Trustee Runners.
Trustee Mason? Sorry.
It's actually recused.
Okay.
Was that a call? Aye. I did not hear that.
Motion carries. Moving on to number 8, consider for approval ordinance number 23-055, an ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of video gaming licenses for a period of 6 months. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee McNaughton, Trustee Fialco. Trustee McNaughton, do you have anything?
I do not.
Trustee Fialco?
No, well, yes, I guess. Just that our input on this ordinance should be the same, just as I explained earlier. If any trustee has an idea that they'd like to submit to Gina and Joe, that should be submitted and taken into consideration in the changes made before this will be going to economic development again, correct? Okay, yeah, that would be it for me.
Again, I should have stated that Trustee Reiners has to recuse herself as she has a liquor license. Trustee Stylen?
No comment.
Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Bianco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 9, consider for approval ordinance number 23-056, an ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of tobacco licenses for a period of 6 months. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialco, Trustee Mason, Trustee Fialco,
Nothing.
Trustee Mason.
Except, give your input to Gina and Joe and then, thank you.
Trustee Mason.
No, ma'am, I understood the first time.
Trustee McNaughton.
No, ma'am.
Trustee Stylen. No comment. Trustee Reiners.
No comment.
Trustee Consolino. No. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reiners?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Bianco?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 10, consider for approval ordinance number 23-057, an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 23-042. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Trustee Fialco, Trustee Mason, Trustee Fialco, do you have any comments?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table this item.
I'll second. Trustee Consolino, is there discussion on tabling? Trustee Fialko?
There's some things that have to be worked out with this. I got this change on Friday, and it involves a little bit more than just a quick little glance at it. So I would like to address the issue and then bring it back to the next meeting, table until then.
So we're in discussion of tabling, rescinding, I'm running for tabling the rescind. Gina, when did you discover that there was an issue with the mailbox ordinance?
I think it was...
Shortly after, so 3 weeks ago, right, roughly?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
When did you notify the trustees that there was an issue? Roughly?
Weeks ago.
Weeks ago? You know?
I can't remember.
Was it Friday?
With the board packet? No, I have to look back at my email and
Okay.
check when that was, because I believe there was an email exchange that I was not included. Interim village manager, Joe Baber, had sent it to me, and then I replied back to him in regards to this.
Okay. Can you give us an update of what those changes are? Or what the issue came about, why we have to rescind and then revote?
So the issue with the mailbox ordinance was, from my understanding, is that the wrong one was presented to the board originally, which was back in July. So what was presented to the board was not the one that should have went to the board.
Can you tell us what changes there were, when you said the wrong ordinance was presented?
So I was told there was 2 ordinances written, or drafted.
Mm-hmm.
One was drafted, I believe, by a trustee, the other was drafted by the attorney. From my understanding, it was the attorney's ordinance that should have been presented to the board, but it was not. And I did not know that until I was told by interim village manager Joe Baker.
I received the attorney's ordinance. I also know that trustee Steinman received the attorney's ordinance. And I also know that trustee Mason and trustee Norton received the attorney's ordinance. So what they voted on was the attorney's ordinance. I do not have confirmation of what they were.
No.
I cannot confirm what they received. And the reason why I know this is because before the meeting, it was handed to me and I said, which one is this? I do know that in the S drive, one of the trustees that presented theirs was in the S drive. So when we say the wrong one was voted on, we really don't know who voted on what, right? So the reason for this rescind is to make sure that we are all in the agreement of the same ordinance. Can you tell us what the differences are between the two?
I would have to look at both ordinances. I know that they're both a little bit different, that I do know, but I would have to look at both ordinances to be specific on what the differences are.
Okay, so what I would ask then, if we are going to table this, that if anyone comes forward with a mailbox, a brick mailbox, brick pillars, whatever, that we pump the brakes until this gets taken care of. Because if I don't want people to fall through the hole.
We've had a couple of inquiries, and that's what we're going to tell people that hasn't been finalized yet. I do have a couple questions with the current draft that was going to be proposed today. In looking at it a little bit closer, the requirements of the size is it says 30 square inches. 30 square inches is no bigger than this piece of paper. So I think there's some error in the way that it's rendered. What I would like to propose is that the specific construction of these mailboxes be eliminated from this ordinance, and we do a separate SOP, because we would like to include in there not only the sizes, but also our policies and procedure for replacement of brick mailboxes if they're hit by our public works department.
Okay, so if this is
So
tabled.
I don't have a problem tabling it. I would recommend it.
But what I'm saying is if this does get tabled today, Can you find out the differences from the old to the new? And can you please add your changes and email each board member so they can address their concerns for the next board meeting?
Yep.
Trustee Fielder, do you have any?
I was told that there were some changes, but the changes, I didn't receive the exact changes until the packet came out. But I was told that there would be changes, that there are changes that are trying to be made. One of the things that Joe said is exactly correct, 15 by 15 and 30 square inches doesn't give you enough to do anything. The idea was though, and I spoke with Joe about this, that the mailbox thing, if you have a larger house, you know the size of these things may change, in a larger one may be acceptable. And if you have a smaller house, a smaller one would be acceptable. Although what we didn't do, there's actually two different parts. One is in the easement of the parkway, which was what we covered, and the second one was the mailbox itself. And the mailbox itself really only has a height and a distance from the curb requirement. And so that's where they have to be meshed together. We still have the easement thing, and I believe that's where it was changed, but it wasn't incorporated into 9273, I think it is. So nevertheless, we just have a few things to iron out, and once we do that, we can bring it back.
There's been multiple versions of this, and I think I'd rather recommend we table it and we get this right.
Trustee Consolino, do you have anything to say for the table?
Yes, I think that we could also look on the agenda online to see what exactly was approved.
We know what was approved. What I'm saying is, I don't know what you guys got in your packet, but I do know what I had in mine, and I do know what they had in theirs.
But if there was an amendment, it would have had to be put in that packet 48 hours beforehand.
Right. What I'm
Online.
I understand what you're saying. Trustee Reinders, do you have anything to add?
No.
Trustee McDonald. Trustee Mason.
I talked to Joe about it too, and I get it. I get the 30 inches. I talked to Trustee Fiocco, so I get it. But we do have the iPads now. Get them set up. You can't read them, as Trustee Consolino just said. But I also agree with you, Madam Mayor. I knew what was in there.
Trustee Steinle.
No comment.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. For the table.
Trustee Spallin?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Fiocco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
That would also go for item 11, consider for approval ordinance number 23-058, an ordinance amending sections 92-72 permits and 92-73 mailboxes of Article 5 of Chapter 92 of the, Chapter 4, Article 4 of Chapter 92 of the Code of Ordinances.
I'll make that motion.
To table.
I'll make that motion. Well, it's motion
It's the same,
consideration, but
right.
then I go to the motion to table that too. Because you can't do one without the other.
All right.
And I'll second.
Second. I'm assuming no discussion. Trustee Fialco, do you want to amend it to table?
No, just table.
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Steinle?
Aye.
Trustee Fiocco?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to old business. Trustee Fialco, do you have anything for old business?
Under old business. Well, let's cover this. In Homer Glen, they found West Nile virus. Joe, as far as spraying, we still got 2 weeks ago when West Nile virus was found in Homer Glen in one of the traps. We talked with Clark Mosquito, and did they do anything above and beyond what they normally do when that was found?
I don't believe so. I think that was more of informational to the residents to just be cautious.
Okay. We're getting to the end of that season, but do you know when their last spraying ends up being for Clark Mosquito for their contract?
I'd have to check into that.
Maybe we could address that and how, when they found the mosquito that had in the trap that had West Nile virus found, they normally take care of that. The other thing would be winter road salt. I know we probably have some left over from 2023, but because we had a short season, I think we only had 5 snow days and they were minimal. But with that said, I want to make sure that we have the salt that we need. And Brent is not here today, but Joe, if you can make sure with Brent that we've got all of the supplies we need to take care of it, like if it was a regular winter season, it will last. That would be it for me for old business.
Trustee Reinders, do you have anything for old business?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
Yes, I do. I have a number of topics. I want to request from the interim village manager and from the attorney that when there are changes made, that they go to everyone so that we don't have this mishap again. Which you're saying some of us got it, some of us didn't.
That was Carmen Morello that handed it to us.
Just asking so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So I still have the floor. Thank you.
You asked me a question.
Also, recently, I didn't ask you, I asked the village manager and the attorney. Also, Lockport recently had their board meeting, and they were in discussion about, they're passing a 320-unit apartment building near the expressway. They discussed our boundary agreement. Also, that a large single-family home is going in on 151st and Copper. Where exactly are we with the water? Because I thought we were told that Bonnie Gray is at full capacity. And now we're passing things in Lockport. So I guess questions that I want to know, what's going on with our discussions with Lockport? We've been waiting on that. What's going on with our ideas for the water situation? What's going on with our boundary agreement? Because they seem to be all full of information and we have nothing to give to our public.
Trustee Consolino, is that a question to me, Joe?
I'm asking Joe, I'm asking the attorney, I'm asking everybody.
So anybody can answer you now? So we're gonna discuss that in executive session.
But the system is also.
We haven't had a meeting since we met with Lockport. That's what we're discussing tonight.
Okay, so then I have another question. I'm confused on what you were discussing earlier in your mayoral report. So you said that you didn't want to take over the township, but then it kind of sounded like you do.
Is this a question for me?
Yes.
Okay.
So which is it? That was in your report, you said no, that you weren't interested in taking over the township.
That's not what I said.
But then towards the end you did, so I'm just asking you, are you in pursuit?
There's two different things.
Are you in pursuit
Are you done with the question?
of taking over the township?
Let me know when you're done.
Okay.
Are you done with your question?
Yes.
Okay. My words, Trustee Reinders was there. Myself, am I interested in getting the village out of the township? Yes. Am I interested in dissolving the township? That's not what I said to Mr. Balish. It's two separate things. There's options. Mayor Lockport would like to get Lockport out of Homer Township. The mayor of New Lenox would like to get New Lenox out of Homer Township. Myself, not them, not you guys, would like to get Homer Glen out of the township. I'd like to begin the process to investigate if it's worth it or not. There's an option to dissolve the township. I can't speak for Mr. Balish on what he wants to do, and I can't speak for those residents. So to answer your question, I would like to look into getting the village out of the township, not dissolving the township. It's two separate things.
Is that going to cost us any money?
How do I know? I mean, Mr. Balish and I had a 2-second conversation about it, and apparently I talked to him for 20 hours about it. It was a 2.5-minute conversation, roughly, about Mr. Balish. I thought you wanted to dissolve the township. Didn't you campaign and run on that method? That's how that conversation started, and it turned into something it wasn't. Do you have any more questions for me?
No, you said you're going to discuss it in executive session.
Trustee McNaughton, do you have anything for old business?
No, thank you.
Trustee Mason, do you have anything for old business?
I do, I'll make it brief. I just wanted to thank everybody who spoke tonight about Hadley Road, Mr. Smith, Gardner, Benelli, Pasella, Phillips, the young lady that brought up the great quote of, we have to inquire about the facts and not the feelings. Mr. Phillips brought up the historical value. I'm all about historical value. I love that. I did know some of that. I learned some more today. I can't tell you guys how much I'm behind that and protecting our roads in our rural rustic areas. Thank you. Oh, one last thing, I'm sorry. I mentioned Dash for Dan. Joe, were we able to get Mr. Baber, were we able to get this up and posted anywhere?
We are cautious about what we put on our village website.
Yes, sir.
So we're exploring those avenues for nonprofits and how they will be promoted.
Fantastic, thank you, sir.
Trustee Steinle, do you have anything?
Nothing for old business, but I will have something for new business.
Okay. So I just said that we were supposed to discuss this in executive session. I was told that all the statements that Trustee Consolino, we were going to discuss tonight. I just looked down and it's not under executive session. Can I ask why?
We're still in the process of fact gathering regarding those topics. It has been an ongoing process since we had those meetings.
When you had your one-on-one with Trustee Consolino, did you advise her or inform her of any of the discussions?
I don't know if we had that discussion.
Would you mind having another meeting with Trustee Consolino to get her up to date on all of those items?
Yes.
As soon as possible, please.
Yep.
Thank you. Is your mic on?
Just to talk briefly about that. You and I actually talked about this. In the parade, if we want to take it over. And Homerfest is usually the same way. I believe the conversation went that if the village takes over the parade, that we can't do it the same week as the fest, which has been a tradition for how many years? I don't know how many years. I guess we can find out. But the thing is, the original start of the parade and the original start of the fest came from the township.
I was on the board.
Yeah, right. And so for us to make a change like that and say we don't want the township involved in the parade, to me, I almost think that's more of a board issue to bring to the board and ask everybody if that's what they want. I mean, to me, that would be the better option to do, instead of just one person making that decision. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Are you asking me to respond to this?
Yes, in a second, yes. So with this unity with the township and with the village, it's been going on way before you and I. And yes, you were a trustee for the township, you were a trustee for the village, and you were the clerk, and you've done a lot of things, I get it. But in that process, you were included in all that stuff with the township. Nobody said, well, get out of here because you're with the village. We've always kind of worked together. And just before we make that final decision, I'd like to have a bigger conversation about it. To see, is that really the right direction that we want to go? Now, if something was to change with the township, and that with stuff that you had mentioned earlier about the township and the changes that may come about, I don't know, then I can see that taking place because it's a whole different structure then. But right now, with our neighbors and our township, which is a sub-government to us, that still is around, I think we're kind of rushing to do that at this point. I don't want to see extra work put on staff. You talked about staff and how hard they work and everything. And I think by putting the parade on the staff, on the events people, it is just an extra burden to be had by them during the same time when a lot of other things are going on. I think in the long run, maybe we could work that out and see where the changes come. But I don't think that I just don't believe one person should be making that decision. And I think maybe if we brought it to the board and we discussed it as a motion, and see what the board thinks, and is this the right timing for it, is what I think.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So for the last 3 years, the township has made the parade political, and I'm tired of having community events be political. A gathering such as that should be for the residents. The last 3 years, I have been booted, I have been treated poorly for the parade. This is the first year that I got to speak to Trustee Reinders, and we had a discussion at the parade. Me and her worked out the differences. You talk about unity for the village and the township. I don't believe Mr. Ballage lying about me for almost an hour at the township meeting is unity. So once Mr. Ballage stops lying, we can start working together. Every time we hand him an olive branch, he hands it back on fire. I'm tired of it. I've sat here for years
and let Mr. Ballas do what he does, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore.
Wasn't the decision on the parade?
I think I'm still in my discussion, I let you speak. I don't know the rulings of how a permit is done. When it was presented to me by Carmen Morella, he told me it was my decision. I made the decision. If you guys want to have a vote every time someone comes to this board for a permit, these meetings are going to be a lot longer. I believe it's my decision. If it's not, then let's vote on it. I guarantee they're not going to have a parade because they were treated poorly as well. We can have our own parade. I think it would be great. We can have it in Heritage Park. We got golf carts. Now we're going to decorate their golf carts. We can have bean bags, balloon toss, egg toss, whatever. But you're right. You can't have it on the same weekend. I've talked to staff. They're willing to take on the challenge. And like I said, they can have a parade. Go to Lockport. They represent 40% of the residents in Lockport. Have your parade in Lockport. Why has it always got to be pick on Homer Glen? Go pick on another town for a little while. Give us a break. Do you want to comment back?
Sure. I don't think that, I think you're taking one person. We have a community of 24,500 people. One person from the township isn't dictating what goes on for the community, and neither are we. It's a combined effort between both entities, and we should be working together. Whatever your differences are with them or them with you, you guys should work them out, and we should be working together as a community, not fighting over a parade. I know you may be disappointed in that side, and they may have some disappointments on their side, but it is the leadership, you and Steve, the leadership, to work together to make the community come together, 24,500 people strong, to work together and to have our traditional parade. And it's not about one person, because of one person doing something doesn't mean we need to penalize the many for the infractions of the few. And this is a community event. This is not a one-person event on the township side. It is not a one-person event on the village side. It's a combined community event.
Did you watch the last township meeting?
I was at it.
You were there. You heard the sentiments of what they said. I don't think they're willing to work with me, Dan. Trustee Fialko, they're not. So, and until they want to play nice, and if I have the right to say no parade, the answer is no parade. They can have their parade in Lockport. Do they work with Lockport in their Lockport parade? No. Do they include Lockport in their township parade? No. Why is it always Homer?
Well, that's been the tradition for 100
Well,
years, whatever.
Time to make new traditions.
All right. That would be my input. I just don't think that we should rush to judgment when it's a community.
Thank you for your input. Trustee Reinders? Trustee Consolino, I know we already went to you once, but do you have anything else?
No, I didn't speak on the parade. This is new
Oh, now we're
business.
back to yourself, parade. Okay.
This is new business.
Okay.
So I think we're going to discuss the parade, then I'm going to say my opinion that I think this is clearly a personal vendetta. And I think it's very disappointing and sad for our community. I think it's sad for Homer Glen, not just for Homer Township. I know they've been doing this parade, you know, for however long, over 20 years. I don't believe all the facts are being presented on exactly what happened. I was out of state, but I heard plenty of different sides from the story on things that occurred. I don't appreciate just the absolute authority of, I'm just going to take it because I can. I don't think our residents would appreciate that approach, and we're a council manager form of government. And I don't believe that we looked at the costs or anything associated with this other than just, I'm going to do it because I can. So that's what I've heard tonight. I'm extremely disappointed. I'm going to be very vocal about this going forward. And sorry if you don't like that. That's my personal opinion.
I'm not, you don't have to apologize. I know, there's many things that I don't like that you do.
Do we have an idea how much it's going to cost us to take on the parade? What do we think the costs associated are going to be out of our pocket for the parade?
You figure it out? Oh, no problem. So I'm just going to comment to what you said. You said you feel sad for the community. You know who I feel sad for? All the residents in Homer Township, when they have to sit there and listen to Mr. Ballas lie repeatedly and make up stories that didn't even happen. He's getting them all riled up. Excuse me, I'm still talking. So he gets all the residents all riled up over lies. He is creating the divide. I've never once, in all my years on sitting on the board, have ever said anything negative about anybody. Maybe you, but nobody else. And I'm tired of sitting here and allowing Mr. Balish attack me over and over and over. Every time he attacks me, I'm gonna come back with something to say. That's it. You also said you heard stories. That's exactly what you heard, is stories. You didn't hear the truth, because you never asked me. And the last question is, I was elected mayor. There's certain things that mayors get to do. I know you don't like it. And you know what? I'm sorry that you don't like it. But if I have the right to not give them a permit because they make things political instead of about the residents, I'm gonna do that. Do you have anything, Mr. McNaughton, on the parade or anything else new? Trustee Mason?
I agree with you. I too watched the township meeting. I think it's vile. I also think that, I don't understand if the township encroaches, New Lenox encroaches on Lockport. As you stated, there's, I think it was actually 17.25 miles, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll go with 18. There's plenty of road, and what have they done? I have actually friends that live in the Lockport side that reside in Homer Township, and they're telling me that nothing from the township has ever been done on the Lockport side of things. And where is their representation? That's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I believe New Lenox has the same sentiments. Trustee Simon, do you have anything new or anything on the parade?
Well, yeah, I have two things. First, the parade. I believe the township said it cost $5,000. Just that, I think that was done at their meeting when I watched the video. You know, in support of Trustee Consolino and Trustee Fialco, it might have been nice to have been included in that decision. But if it's the mayor's decision to make, I can respect that. I don't know the whole dynamics of everything. It has been a long-standing tradition for the township to do the parade. But I do see them doing a lot of things and making things political, and I think that's very unfortunate that they do that. My other point that I would like to make is we talk about the minutes tonight, so for new business, I'd like to make sure that we schedule something to talk about what we would really like to see in the minutes, because I don't think that they need to be verbatim. Some people do. So I think we need to come to some kind of common sense consensus that we can move forward so that the minutes can be done and get approved.
I think we can come up with something. Trustee Reynolds, did you have something you wanted?
Yes, I wanted to add something about the parade. I've been involved in the parade for the last 3 years, and the people that actually, they work very hard to put on that parade. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of scheduling. There's a lot of going out and trying to solicit people to be in the parade. And, you know, and just for and even like last year when I had my knee replacement, I did not want to miss the parade because I know that there's so many people that do look forward to it. And I hope that if in the event that we cannot work out something with the township, or that we do not lose the tradition. Because to me, it's all about the tradition. And I don't want to discount the people that work. I mean, I've been on that committee, like I said, for 3 years, and I worked my butt off. I've stood out there in the middle of the street from in the morning until in the afternoon in the beating sun, because I love this community and I wanted to see something good happen for them. So I just hope that in the event we do continue on with some type of tradition with a parade.
We will have a parade. I just, again, I'm not going to work with somebody who makes something political when it's supposed to be a good event for the residents. For 3 years in a row, it was made political. I think that's long enough. Any more new business? Joe, can you do me a favor, since we're on discussion? Can you find or work with Attorney O'Grady to find out what I'm allowed to do? So this just stops. Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on to workshop. We don't have anything for workshop. So we're going to move into executive session. Is there a motion? Lisa, move. Trustee Stein? Trustee McNaughton? All in favor? 5-minute break.